Ariana, could you please move Brian Mulrooney over to participants? He's with Metro Transit.
Okay.
Thank you. Hey, Mike. Hey, Robbie. Looks like we're still waiting for some folks. 1, 2, 3, 4. We only have 5 TC members at the moment. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Need one more for quorum. Doug Davis has a question again.
Yes, my question is, once I read my 3-minute, my 3-minute time that I have, am I supposed to wait for questions, or it's just a comment and then they move on?
You can wait because commissioners may have questions for you
Okay, thank you.
or other alders. Yep.
Can I just ask if you can hear me?
We can. Thanks, Mike.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Looks like we have 6. Let me just double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, it appears we just have a quorum. So I will call the April 23rd, 2025 meeting of the Transportation Commission to order. Ariana, if you could please read the instructions.
Welcome to our virtual meeting. We're going to cover a few basic items before beginning. If you lose connection at any point during the meeting, you can reconnect by clicking the link or calling the number in your original email. To members and city staff, members, if you are able, please activate your video and keep it on for the duration of the meeting. Staff, if you are able, please activate your video when you are speaking. Use the raise hand feature when you'd like to be recognized to speak or ask questions. Staff, click raise hand when you are asked a question. The chair will do their best to call on committee members in the order in which hands are raised. Lowering your hand will take you out of the queue. Members of the public who have registered to speak, the name you entered in Zoom must match the name you entered in registration. You will remain muted until called upon. The clerk will tell you when your time is up. After speaking, a member of the body may ask you a question. If you need to share documentation with the commission, please send it to the email listed on today's agenda. Chair, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Ariana. Aiden, if you could call the roll, please.
Sure thing. So William Ochakwitz.
And Ariana, you did invite the 2 new alders to the meeting, correct?
I did, correct.
Okay, thanks.
Would you like me to send a third reminder?
If you don't mind,
Sure.
I'm sure they Alder O'Brien just joined. I don't see the other new alder, but it couldn't hurt if you wouldn't mind.
Okay.
Thank you. Go ahead, Aiden. Sorry for the interruption.
No worries. So next in roll call was Sean O'Brien.
Here, present.
Dina Nina Martinez Rutherford has another thing going on, so she'll be joining later. Barbara Harrington McKinney. So Ann Kovich.
Here.
Robbie Weber.
Here.
Denise Jeffs. Pepe Barros is excused. Chris McCahill.
Here.
Bill Bremer.
Here.
Harold Kleems.
Present.
Kaylee Jameson.
Here.
And Lynn Olson.
Okay. And I see Alder, and I'm going to say Okovich. Is that correct?
That's pretty close. Okovich.
Say it again.
Okovich.
Okovich. So on the first syllable.
Yep.
Okay. My last name is Kovich, so, I was kind of leaning that direction. So,
Yeah,
okay. So Okovich. All right. Thank you very much, Alder. And welcome. All right. So, Kaylee, you're able to vote tonight because Pepe's gone, and we also have a couple other folks who are missing. And I would like to take this opportunity to welcome Alder Okovich and O'Brien to the Transportation Commission. And I think Yang already sent you an email welcoming you, and we're going to send you an additional email with some links to some information about Transportation Commission and offer an opportunity to meet to do a little bit of an orientation. And Alder Martinez Rutherford and Alder Harrington McKinney are coming back for another year on Transportation Commission. So those appointments were all confirmed at the April 15th Common Council meeting. So welcome. Did everybody have an opportunity to take a look at the minutes? Aiden sent out some revised minutes yesterday. Everybody have a chance to take a look at those? Chris,
Move approval of the minutes.
there's a motion, Bill.
okay.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any discussion about the minutes? Okay, seeing no hands, I'm going to assume a unanimous consent vote unless anybody wishes to vote no or abstain. If so, please raise your hand. Okay, the motion is carried. Aiden, do we have anybody registered under item 1? I believe we do. Is that correct?
Yep, that is correct. We have Douglas Davis, Crestview Drive. We're representing Glendale Neighborhood Association Board of Directors. Wishes to speak?
Okay, go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Okay, I timed this out. It's 3 minutes and 30 seconds, so I'm going to go real fast. My name is Douglas Davis, 305 Crestview Drive, Madison 53716. Email doug.davis2017@gmail.com. I am a longtime resident of the Glendale neighborhood and vice president of the Glendale Neighborhood Association. I'm commenting both as an individual and to give voice to neighbors' concerns that were discussed at our spring meeting on Wednesday evening, March 19th at Unity of Madison on Tompkins Drive. I'm commenting today on the Flom Road resurfacing project, which is scheduled to begin sometime in July of this year and last through at least November. This will take place from just off Highway 51/Stoughton Road all the way east, just short of Monona Drive by Walgreens. It's going to be great to have Flom Road resurfaced and upgraded, as it is a main artery between Stoughton Road and Monona Drive with stoplights on both ends, and Senate Middle School and La Follette High School bordering a significant portion. Looking at the plans, there are excellent additions that will further the safety of our children, grandchildren, and residents with upgraded pedestrian crossings and much better bike lanes and access. My comments today are actually geared towards the safety considerations, or lack of, related to the time period during the construction. Not on Flom Road, but on the major arteries that are adjacent to it, particularly Tompkins Drive. Many of the GNA board members and neighbors have been following the initial unveiling of this project through both online information and Zoom meetings. I personally attended the March 12th public comment meeting held online by Steve Sontag, the project manager. At the open questions period at the end of the meeting, I asked 2 pertinent questions that the board asked me to ask. They both were related to traffic concerns on Tompkins Drive, which has Dr. Virginia Henderson School on the far east end and goes all the way to Monona Drive with no stop signs whatsoever. It's going to be a major cut-through portion during the construction. The questions I asked were, 1, will there be a reroute on Flom Road to traffic onto Tompkins Drive? And if so, will there be any new safety strategies be implemented on Tompkins, which already has speeding and safety issues? 2, since Flom is a main artery between Stoughton Road and Monona Drive with both stoplights at both ends, where do you expect people to use an alternative? The answers I was given by Mr. Sontag, and these are recorded, he said, we will not be directing traffic anywhere and leave it up to residents, and we will not be adding any stop signs or additional stuff on Tompkins. People can use all kinds of side streets, Buckeye, Tompkins, for instance. It's up to residents. He stated that he knew there are concerns on Tompkins because it's a designated alternate route, but it is not a designated alternate route. That is not their intent. End of his response. For those of you who've never traveled down this section between Flom and Stoughton Road between 4 and 5 p.m., I strongly encourage you to take a half hour anytime, any week, school or no school, to see the congestion and significant amount of traffic going both east and west. It's a main artery with stoplights at both ends for both Monona and Madison residents coming home from work. Therefore, if they can't use Flom, they're going to cut through into the Glendale neighborhood, which at 2 blocks south is Tompkins Drive. No stop signs, straight run through. We've already been working with our neighborhood resource officer, Laura Deloach at MPD, and obtained dozens of slow down for kids signs for the neighbors to post. Are in the process of trying to schedule a flashing portable MPD your speed installation at the time. I'm submitting these comments in writing. I will submit these comments in writing, but wanted to go on record at this meeting with these comments, as July will be here before you know it. The GNA board looks forward to working with a representative from the Traffic Commission, our District 15 Alder Dina Nina, and project manager Steve Sontag to ensure the safety of our children and all residents of the Glendale neighborhood during this project. It would be great if one of you or someone on the commission could volunteer as a representative to meet with our board of directors, and we'd be happy to have you at any time that you're available. You can email me through the address I gave, or Tim Egan, who's the president of the GNA, which I also put in my application. Thank you for your time and all you do to make Madison a safe and livable community.
Thank you very much. It would be great if you could submit that in writing, and then staff can certainly follow up, and it'll be forwarded to all commission members, so everybody has a chance to see it again in writing. So we appreciate that. Comments or questions from commission members or alders for the registrant?
Okay, thank you. I'll submit that in writing.
Yeah, we appreciate you coming and sharing your thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any disclosures or recusals this evening?
Oh, and sorry, we have one more public comment.
Oh, you do? Oh, I'm sorry. I was
No,
not aware. Great. Thanks. Who do we have? Who else do we have?
So next we have Iris Hitting of Andy's Drive, registered wishing to speak.
Hello, can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, we can. You have 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Okay, no, I was actually just asking if there was like any progress on the D2 bus line, like what if the bus stops are already considered, or if the meeting will still be or if they're still gonna schedule a meeting for that. That's my question.
That'll be at our next meeting, and you can certainly connect with Mick Roosh at Metro Transit, and he can give you additional details, but that's planned for our next meeting.
Okay, when is that?
That is on May 14th.
May 14th. Thank you very much. So that was my question. Thank you very much.
Yep. Okay. Anybody else registered for item 1?
No, that was everyone. Thanks.
Okay, great. Now, do we have any disclosures or recusals this evening? Okay, seeing no hands. Next, we have the consent agenda. Right now, we have items 2 through 4 proposed for the consent agenda. First, do we have anybody registered to speak on those items, Aiden?
No, we do not.
Okay. Does anybody wish to have any of these 3 items separated from the consent agenda? Robbie?
Yeah, number 2, I actually just have a few questions about it. That's all.
Okay, so we'll separate item 2. Ruben?
Yeah, and I can bring this back up if we want to have questions about it. We'd actually want to re-refer this. As we were going through it, we realized that there are more complications with it, and so staff is going to take a little bit longer time to clear up those complications. So we just re-refer that and bring it back to TC later.
Okay, I had not heard that. So
Yeah, it's been going back and forth over the week.
sure. So why don't we'll take it separately and then we can have a little conversation about that. How does that sound? Alder Okovich.
Could we pull item 3? I just had a few questions on it.
Okay. So at this point, we just have item 4 on the consent agenda. Anybody want that one pulled off? Our theory is always put them on if we think they belong there and pull them off if we need to. Okay, anybody willing to make a motion on item 4, Legistar 87998, Metro Transit bus stop changes at West Washington Avenue and the Southwest Commuter Path? Harold, I'm sorry, Robbie, go ahead.
Move approval of item 4.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second on the consent agenda. I'm going to assume a unanimous consent vote unless anybody wishes to vote no or abstain. Okay, item 4 is approved. So let's go back to item 2. And I don't know, Ruben, did you want to give us a little background, or Mecker, who wants to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, and I haven't been in the latest conversations. I just didn't want it to go through if there wasn't clarity, but I'm going to turn it over to Mick because he's been the one following this.
Honestly, Ruben, we got things straightened out, and I'm sorry if you didn't get that message. So I think we're good to go.
So yeah, you can just refer whatever questions you have to Mick.
Okay, well, Mick, do you want to just give a little summary since we pulled it off the consent agenda?
Sure. It's just if Eric's here too, but it's basically allows us to, or the general manager to enter into agreements for our past program. And we have 2 past program contracts that this would allow us to enter into either one of them. Eric, is there anything else on that?
No, I mean, effectively, there's a blanket authorization right now for organizations of less than 1,000 folks, and this would basically get rid of that requirement that organizations be less than 1,000 participants.
Okay, Robbie, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess this is just really to clarify, and then I do have a question about sort of another matter. So right now, as it stands before we pass this, organizations of less than 1,000 people, the general manager can enter into an agreement without bringing it to, say, the TC, but any organization over 1,000 has to come to TC. Is that the way it currently stands?
I think organizations over 1,000 would need to go to the Common Council, just as a approval
to the
for
council. Okay, and
yeah.
so this would basically allow the general manager to enter into an agreement without it going to council. Is that what we're voting on?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. That clarifies why we're doing this. And then I guess my other question is, how does this or the past program mesh with our TDM program for maybe residents or employees that live in a particular development? I mean, work in a particular development. I mean, I think this was set up mostly for employees, but since the TDM program gives points for, say, providing bus passes, I'm just curious how this program meshes with the TDM and people who might be living, say, in a development or perhaps not working for one employer, but working in a development that is under the TDM requirement.
That would be our commute card program, which would be less than 1,000, and then that is different than what we're talking about today. So that one we already have the ability to. The general manager already has the ability to sign those.
Okay, so it's just a different program.
Yes.
Okay.
It covers like our legacy programs when we first set these up with the hospitals and with Edgewood College, Madison College, and that kind of thing.
Okay. Okay. And so when you said legacy program, does that mean that any organization like the hospitals or MATC or the UW that you already have a program with, I mean, is renewal of their of their agreement, does that go to the council or does it not go to the council if we pass this? I'm just trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, so that's part of the I think aim here is we've got groups like Meriter, Edgewood, UW Madison, MATC, I think Dane County and SSM, and basically those are the employers that now we would have a blanket authorization to renew those. It's kind of been done a resolution just about every time those have renewed, and they're often limited by number of years or specify certain dollar amounts. So this allows us to renew those, keep them at in line with whatever the tariff rates are set, so that we don't have to spend common council time kind of renewing agreements that have been in operation for 12 years or 14 years.
Thanks.
Thanks, Robbie. Anybody have any other questions or comments? Okay, we would need a motion to recommend this to the council. Robbie?
Move approval.
Do we have a second? Oh, Chris?
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, seeing no hands, I'm going to assume unanimous consent vote unless anybody wishes to vote no or abstain or wishes a roll call vote. So please raise your hand. Okay, the motion is carried. Okay. Item 3, which relates to some minor changes that were made in the Code of Conduct Transit Exclusion Policy, which, as I understand it, Eric, were already approved by Tom Lynch back in March, but which is allowed under the TC ordinance, but just need to be reviewed and confirmed by TC. So do we want to just go to questions? Alder Okovich, did you have a question?
Yes, I had a question. Eric, if you want to go first.
Did you want to summarize it all, Eric, or no?
Oh, well, I guess to summarize the changes, there aren't really any substantive changes. It's really updating the address and names. We had some outdated information, and we were sending out 2 of these exclusion notices. And so before we send those out, I wanted to make sure that the people that we're excluding are, have correct information for being able to appeal those exclusions if they wanted to. So that was kind of the impetus for this. It's correcting an address, correcting the name of the Transportation Commission from the TPPB, and I think changing chairman to chair.
All right, thanks, Eric. My question is less about the actual ordinance than the process. So I was wondering, one, if this was driven by a lot of the changes that are also on the agenda today for related to assaulting bus drivers, and 2, what the process is for passengers to report violations. And I'll just say this is a very unpleasant experience on the bus the other week, and it wasn't that bad, but it was, it was harassment.
So
Nick, go ahead, Mick. Oh.
Well, I'll just say really quickly, this doesn't really have any substantive changes. This is more just ensuring that the people that, we had a couple high profile incidents and those exclusion letters were being sent, and we wanted to make sure that those folks would have an ability to appeal as opposed to giving them information with an old address that, we want to make sure that they have an opportunity to be heard. So that's really all this one is. This one, there are a lot of other efforts that Metro is doing, I think, to improve driver safety. This is more protecting the due process rights of the excluded.
Mick, did you have a comment? Go ahead.
Yeah, just a couple. I think your question too was like, how would you report it? Is that one of the questions? And then you can call our call center at 608-266-4466 or email mymetrobus@cityofmadison.com and let us know what happened, and then we will follow up. We'll get that over to a supervisor for immediate review. As far as the exclusion policy itself, I know Brian Mulrooney, who is our chief of operations, who is going to be helping us talk about the next few items. But basically, Brian, I know, wanted to do some updates to the exclusion policy. So we're going to be looking at that in more depth in future months and discussing that in more detail. So we are going to be bringing more things back to you, but this is just a detailed change, like Eric said, but we want to look into it a little bit more closely and make some more updates.
And this has been in place for quite some time, has it not, Mick?
Yes, it has.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, other comments or questions? We would need a motion to approve, basically ratify the changes that Tom Lynch approved back in March.
So moved.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second? Harold?
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, I'm going to assume a unanimous consent vote unless anybody wishes to vote no or abstain. Okay, I'm not seeing any hands, so that motion is carried. Okay, thanks everybody. Let's move on to item 5 regarding taxi cab operators license renewals. Yang.
Thank you, Anne. Good evening, everyone. I also want to provide a warm welcome to our new order appointees. So yeah, looking forward to working with you. Yeah, I think everybody know me, but my name is Yan Tao. I'm the director of the city's traffic engineering division. Traffic engineering division do a lot of things, and one of the things people typically don't know is managing the city's taxi cab program, including the licenses to operate taxi cab companies in the city. My colleague Keith Pollack is typically the person who do all the detailed work. He's on much needed vacation, and so I'm filling in for him. So the program is a 2-year license program. So every couple of years, we need all the companies operating Madison to renew by end of June. So this is definitely the time to do that. And we reach out to all the taxi cab companies in the city, and they all submitted their application. So this includes 4 companies. 2 of the companies you may use and know better. Those are Union Cab of Madison, and also affiliated carriage system, or better known as Madison Taxi. So the kind of regular taxi companies coming to mind. But we also have a couple of other more specialized companies in Madison to provide more specialized transportation service, such as being contracted for Metro to provide paratransit service, and also for school district. So those are First Student and also Transit Solutions. Again, all 4 of them submit the application. Staff review that. We also, look into some of the key statistics for the last couple of years during their operation, and so there's, reports included in this item, but we reviewed all those kind of results, all the data. We also reached out to all the companies and follow up on some of the questions that we have. For example, we asked everyone about their vehicle maintenance practice. How much rest periods that drivers get before serving between shifts. And also, look into the customer and the driver complaints. Look into driver passenger safety data. Operations such as decline of service, which luckily for us, for Madison, is very rare. Also, look into their rates. Actually, on rates, the specialized transportation service companies for student and transit solutions, their rates were set by their contracts. So there's not much change aside of that. And also, there are no rate increase from Union Cab and the Madison Taxi, for the regular taxi service. So we really appreciate that, since we know that their costs kind of are increasing, due to inflation. But they're able to figure a way to keep their rate at the same level. We're also, requiring unexpected their insurance policy, making sure they have a means to, cover, those crashes, if those still happen. So after review, go through all the steps, review all the information. Staff recommend to renew the license for another 2 years for all of these companies. I also, since I got you, I want to provide some information, that was discussed at the commission before, and also, some of those were brought up by the management of these companies when our staff interact with them. For example, that they continue to face impacts from the TNCs, the transportation network companies such as Uber and Lyft. That the city unfortunately really cannot regulate them. But the hope that local municipalities will have more control on them, so that they can compete on equal footing. So that's definitely something beyond Madison. It will definitely has to be looked at the state level. And I also want to provide update that this was at the commission before. The city provided a grant to the companies to purchase some accessible vehicles. So for our residents with special needs. So Union Cab wanted a grant. And so I'm happy to report that they got the cabs, 3 accessible cabs purchased, equipped, and painted. I think they will already enter service as on January 9th of this year. So far, these vehicles has been used extensively. So things are going well. And we'll also ask them to provide another update by early next year, and we'll keep you posted on that as well. Here, I want to thank the commission, for the guidance and help as we go through, the funding and also the selection process for that program. So glad to know that that effort is paying off and it's working well. I guess I'll sum up over there. And again, staff are confident from the data that they submitted, and recommend that the city to grant license to all of our companies so they can continue their valued service in our community. So thank you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Yang. Before we go to questions, can I ask Aiden if there's anybody registered to speak on this item?
They're not registered to speak, but we do have a few as available for questions. Bill Carter representing Union Cab. Eric Brecky looks like they're representing Madison Taxi. And Jennifer Hardesty representing Transit Solutions.
Okay, so they are available in case we have questions. Great, thank you. Denise, go ahead.
Great, thanks. Yang, thanks so much for the review of the program and your recommendation to renew the licenses. So I have two questions. One is, are the taxi cab companies allowed to do variable rates depending on time of day?
That's a great question. How about that? I'm going to turn over maybe to the companies, especially Union Cab and Madison Taxi, for them to answer that. I think the answers to from other companies are no, but I'm wondering whether Union Cab and Madison Taxi want to chime in for that.
Bill or Eric, do you want to help with that? Who wants to go first? Raise your hand. Bill, if you could let him speak, Ariana.
Okay. So talking about variable pricing, that price, we are not allowed to do that. By city ordinance, we have to submit our rates 30 days before they change, and we have to follow the rates that we have.
Great. Awesome. Thanks, Bill. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you, Bill.
Then that's great because yeah, that is really helpful. The second question I have, and I think this is outside the licensing requirements, I know for sure, but I want to just put it on everybody's radar, and maybe Mick can speak to it. Part of what I always want to make sure is that that there's some accountability with the companies for sensitivity training and appropriate service for anyone. But in this case, I'm thinking about people with disabilities because I've seen some things. My staff uses paratransit quite a bit, as do my clients. And I've seen some pretty significant etiquette issues with transit solution drivers not really knowing how to properly interact with someone who's blind. So we could have an offline conversation about this, but I just want to raise that as one of the things that I think we need to have some standards or expectations around, is that folks are getting the training that they need so that they're comfortable working across disability, and that the people who are riding with them feel safe and respected.
Mick or Brian, did you have a comment on that?
I mean, I can look into what training is provided to our contracted providers. But in the meantime, if there are specific issues that do arise with that, our regular complaint system goes directly to the contracted providers for follow-up. So following that process would help identify some of those specific issues.
Yeah, I've got a running list. So so who should I reach out to? Mick or
myself, Mick, or the regular customer service email for Metro, my Metro bus.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, I'll put things in email and follow up. So Thank you. I really appreciate it.
And Denise, you can start with sending it to me, and Brian and I can review it ahead of time.
Okay, That
But,
sounds perfect. Okay.
Yep.
Thanks, Mick.
Yep.
Thanks, Denise. Bill, go ahead.
Thanks, Ann. Thanks, Yang, for the presentation and discussion that you gave on the companies that do business with the taxis. And I think I wanted to show my support and appreciation to the companies that go through this process of getting the city permits and of the quality of drivers. I think what really came for me to appreciate this was we've had occasion where the city, using city police, do a review of all of our city cab drivers, and we hold them to high standards, and I think that is people should be aware that we have a good process of reviewing the quality drivers, and so we know that their records get looked at, and we hold them to high esteem. And I think that shows the difference between the other companies. I don't know what you call them, Uber and Lyft drivers versus our cab drivers. And I think the Uber and Lyft do not go through that vetting process with law enforcement looking at their records and so forth, but we do with the cab company drivers, and so that's very much appreciated that the cab companies are hiring quality drivers and correct and they're have good police records and good background checks done, and I think that is we appreciate that, and I think we need to recognize that for the cab companies. So I think it's good service that they provide. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Does anybody else have any other comments or questions for Yang? Anybody have any other comments or questions for the folks from Madison Taxi Union and Transit Solutions who are here with us and available for questions? Okay, doesn't look like it. We would need a motion to recommend this to the council. Bill?
I'd like to make a motion for approval of the permits for the extension of 2 years for the cab companies.
Okay, thanks, Bill. Alder Martinez Rutherford?
I will second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Bill, did you wish to speak to your motion?
I think I'd like to just reiterate that I think the city is doing a good job, and the cab companies are reciprocating on their end with hiring good drivers and running their companies very well to meet the needs of Madison residents. Thanks. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Bill. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, I'm going to assume a unanimous consent vote unless anybody wishes to vote no or abstain or wishes a roll call vote. So please raise your hand. Not seeing any hands, the motion is carried. Thanks, Yang, and thanks to the folks from the various companies that were here to help answer questions tonight as well.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and the whole commission for the support. And thanks to our partners, the taxi companies, for the very valuable service they are providing to our community. So thank you.
Okay, thanks. Thanks so much, Yang. Okay, we move on to item 6, amending sections 2402 and 108 of Madison General Ordinances regarding disorderly conduct related to city transit operators. I believe Mick and Mike Haas are here to talk about that this evening, and Brian Mulrooney as well. So who wants to give an introduction?
I'll do a quick start.
Okay.
Basically, we have had a few high number of driver assaults this past month, and it's been a higher amount this past year. And in a second, Brian can give us a little bit more background on that. But this is basically going to give us another tool to kind of address some of these things quickly, and I'll let Mike speak to the specifics of it. But it's just to help with that and to generally help protect our drivers. And with that, I will send it over to Brian to give us a little background on the assaults we've been experiencing and how this would help.
Yeah, so the number of assaults, like Nick was saying, this year has already surpassed, in terms of physical assaults, has surpassed the number of physical assaults that we've had previously last year in total, which is a bit of a jarring statistic. So this is meant to directly address many of the operators' concerns regarding what is done about the individuals who are a part of these assaults. So this does not take away, my understanding, any sort of the felony assault charges from the assailants, but it brings on this disorderly conduct similar to the penalty that's brought on for similar assaults or like election workers or things like that. So it brings a lot more immediate action to the assailant and addresses the immediate need with the operators as well.
Okay, that's a great.
Mike have a little more background. I'm sorry, Ann.
Sure, no, go ahead, Mike.
Thank you. For those I haven't met, I'm Mike Haas, the city attorney. And our office drafted this ordinance. I just want to give you a little bit more background. As Brian mentioned, this is modeled after an ordinance that we drafted and the council passed in 2022, which was intended to provide a little elevated level of protection to election officials, meaning staff of the clerk's office and election inspectors or poll workers in the wake of the 2020 election, when there was just a spike in harassing phone calls and harassing behavior targeting election officials just for doing their job. And so what this ordinance would do, it doesn't change the existing options or the existing disorderly conduct ordinance, except it provides a higher penalty for disorderly conduct that is directed at a city transit operator, which is defined as an individual employed by Madison Metro and who operates a city transit vehicle. So specifically, the disorderly conduct is defined. That definition does not change. It's basically engaging in violent, abusive, indecent, profane, boisterous, or unreasonably loud or otherwise disorderly conduct, which tends to cause or provoke a disturbance. There's some other similar language. And then the penalty enhancer section states that anybody who engages in that behavior directed at an individual working in their capacity as a city transit operator is subject to a higher penalty. Before we get to the penalties, I would just point out that it does require that the individual be working in the capacity. So in other words, if there's some, private dispute, they're off the job and the behavior has nothing to do with the individual working as a city transit operator, this elevated forfeiture would not apply. So as far as the forfeitures, the existing disorderly conduct ordinance provides a range of forfeitures, and then it provides a bond for each subsection of the ordinance. And the range is from $300 to $1,000. And so the basic disorderly conduct citation, the bond amount, which is the amount that a citation would be written for, is the minimum of $300. This ordinance would increase that bond amount to $500. So the same range would exist, but officers would write a citation for that bond amount. Now, it's also important to understand that when somebody is found guilty of a citation, the actual penalty is more than the bond amount because there are court costs that are added. So, for instance, a $300 bond amount translates into a total penalty of $439. A $500 bond amount translates into a penalty of $691. So the total difference from the basic disorderly conduct citation is I guess over $250. And I will say similar to when the election official penalty enhancer was adopted, I think there are a couple of purposes for this ordinance change. One is to address a certain type of conduct. So it's important to understand that there will still be the options, as Brian indicated, for more serious behavior and physical assaults to be charged as criminal offenses, either a misdemeanor or a felony. A misdemeanor could be disorderly conduct. It could be assault. It could be felony battery. And I would expect the police and the district attorney to pursue those kinds of charges, especially if there are injuries or physical altercations with Metro drivers. So I want to focus in this penalty enhancer is really, you can consider it a lower level than criminal behavior, but still it would be what would normally be charged as a citation written into municipal court and prosecuted by our office. The same type of behavior, just simply aimed at a city transit officer. The benefit, as Brian mentioned, one of the benefits of that is usually municipal court. It operates on a much quicker timeline than going through the circuit court and having the district attorney prosecute. Also, sometimes we see these lower level violations. The DA's office just has a certain amount of capacity, and they may not be able to always prosecute in a timely manner cases that are not criminal violations. And so this, I just wanted to kind of emphasize, this is not really targeted at cases where drivers are being physically assaulted. We still have the traditional avenues for prosecuting that. The second, I think, point I would make about this ordinance proposal is, in addition to the enhanced penalties, I think the city feels it sends a strong message to our public employees that the city supports their work and supports their safety and wants to do everything we can to enhance that. And there is not, any public employee that should be subject to harassment or disorderly conduct because they're simply doing their job. So I think I'll stop there and see if there are any questions.
So first, before we go to questions, can I ask if there's anybody who's registered to speak on this item?
There is not. Nope.
No? Okay. All right. Why don't we go to questions and comments then?
All right. And before we go to questions, I just wanted to add a piece in there just to Mike's last point.
Go ahead, Ruben.
Just wanted to add in there that this idea came strongly from the Teamsters, so they're in support of moving in this direction as well.
Thank you, Ruben. Okay, comments or questions on this item? Chris.
Thanks. So I noticed paragraph 2 sort of outlines behaviors that would fall under this, and it includes things like profane and boisterous. So I guess I have a two-part question. who determines what is profane and boisterous? And then the second part is, what does it mean to be directing that at a transit operator? And who decides that?
Yeah, sure. So, good questions, because in this area of, disorderly conduct or assault, there are a lot of court cases dealing with, what is First Amendment speech, where does that cross a line into being a violation of the law? And so that's something that, police officers are used to dealing with. And I think the relevant language is that the end of that sentence that says, under circumstances in which such conduct tends to cause or provoke a disturbance. And it is a judgment call, but that's why we have the courts to ultimately it's in this case it would be a municipal court judge that would determine it. If it's in circuit court, it would be either a circuit court judge or a jury that would determine whether or not it is, essentially protected speech or speech that crosses the line into being conduct that tends to cause or provoke a disturbance. I think there was a second part to the question?
I think you probably answered the second part. It was about who decides if it's directed at the operator. That was helpful. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Alder Martinez Rutherford, go ahead.
Yeah, Chris, thanks for asking that, because I can be boisterous and loud. So I was like, how do we? My big question right now, I guess, is, do we have any idea of what's actually driving the uptick in violence against our drivers? I mean, I know that we're in a wild time, but I wonder if we have any indication of what is driving it.
I mean, right now, no, unfortunately, and that's kind of the purpose of bringing together, Madison PD and other intergovernmental agencies to discuss this and evaluate each individual assault, or in this case, disorderly conduct situation, as they come in, so that we can have a better grasp of what's causing it, what we can do to prevent it, and what mitigation strategies there are available to us to use. So that's kind of the hope of different subject, but that's the hope of bringing together these different committees to discuss and investigate and learn as much as we can to prevent future issues.
Awesome. When you start getting a clearer picture, is there any way that you could contact us or give us an update so that we kind of understand holistically what it is?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Mick, if you can kind of keep this on your back of your mind in terms of a list of something where we could have a TC update whenever it's appropriate, that would be great.
No problem.
Is that all you had, Alder Martinez Rutherford? Okay, thank you. Kaylee, go ahead.
I have a comment more than a question, so I don't know if people's questions want to go first, or am I good to go?
You're good to go.
I guess my thinking here is I want to protect drivers, and I certainly don't want anyone to experience assault or violence or, rogue behavior on the bus. I certainly want drivers to feel supported and safe. I have some equity concerns with the increased forfeiture penalty because we already can prosecute perpetrators with existing disorderly conduct charges under the existing ordinance, as well as the higher charges, Mike, that you mentioned for the more egregious offenses. When I think about the poll worker call out, my understanding is that this was more seeking to prevent political disorderly conduct or political violence and harassment. Potentially that could be coming from a really broad swath of the population. And when I think about, as a regular rider, who is disproportionately likely to be on the bus and who is maybe more likely to behave in a disorderly manner, it could be folks with mental health or substance abuse issues, likely to be folks with lower income. And $439, the existing penalty, is a lot of money. I think that's a significant deterrent already. I think the additional $250 is a significant addition to that, but I'm not sure it really changes the level of deterrence for our lowest income folks, since that 439 is already a high number. And the existing ordinance already has the ability to go up to the higher end of that range, that $1,000 level, depending on the offense. So I personally don't think the additional cost would be more likely to change the deterrence level. And I do have equity concerns with adding it. So just wanted to say that.
Okay, thanks, Kayla. And anybody on staff have any comments in response at this point, or? No? Brian or Mick? Okay.
No.
Okay, Denise, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Ann. Thanks, everybody, for this update. I think my question is along Kaylee's concerns. So does the municipal court have the ability to, rather than fining someone, have another form of restitution that a person could do, community service or something like that? Because my concerns echo Kaylee's, that if someone already has very limited income, that the fine could be the difference between whether they maintain housing, put food on the table, or pay court fees. And I know that there needs to be a consequence. So I completely support driver safety and really trying to deter the behavior. I'm just looking at alternatives for the restitution. So that's my curiosity.
So I can make a couple comments on that. There are some, I guess, what you would call diversion techniques to avoid convictions. There are, and I'm not familiar with all of them, unfortunately, that are available to our prosecutors, but I know there are options such as what we call hold open, which is the case would be held open, and if the person does not reoffend within a certain period of time, it could be dismissed. Cases can be settled by our prosecutors. They have the authority to settle cases for a lower forfeiture. The judge could impose a lower forfeiture. The bond amount is the amount that is written on the citation. It's kind of the default penalty. If the person does not then show up for court, that's what their penalty is. They can show up for court, and if they're found not guilty, obviously there's no penalty. If they're found guilty, then there's also a separate discussion about what the penalty is. I will say also, maybe just to go back to some of the comments about equity, there is discretion throughout the process. There, obviously, if there's a mental health episode, the city now has a CARES team, which is an option to respond where the police are not even involved, or not handling it as an enforcement action. The police themselves may decide not to issue a citation. They may issue a citation still under the standard disorderly conduct. They're not required to issue a citation that includes the penalty enhancer. They could choose between the two and maybe issue a citation for the lower amount, depending on things like the severity, how prolonged was this? Is this a repeat offender? I mean, that's the kind of judgments they make on a daily basis. So it's not, it's not automatically that every citation is going to, or I should say that every incident would end up with a citation being issued, or a citation being issued for this larger amount. And I did remember, I think one of the earlier questions I forgot to address while I have the floor, I think, was the question about, what is behavior or conduct that is directed towards the transit officer. And I think you could imagine, somebody being on a bus and they are in a big argument with another passenger or harassing another passenger. That would not fall under this penalty enhancer. If it then transfers that conduct transfers and is directed at the driver, or if the driver tries to intervene and it becomes a confrontation with the driver, then it would qualify under this penalty enhancer.
Got it, Mike. Thanks. That was very helpful.
Okay. Thanks, Denise. That's all you had then? Okay. All right. Great. Alder Okovich, go ahead.
Thank you. I have two questions. So one is this: the penalty is called a penalty, bail deposit, and a forfeiture throughout this. This isn't, just to be clear, this isn't a bail like a criminal bail where you have to pay it in order to be released from jail. It's exclusively.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. Good point. It's sort of a term of art in the statutes. It's the deposit amount. Nobody, if a citation is issued for somebody to appear in municipal court, nobody's held in jail for that. It's equivalent to, a speeding ticket. You get the ticket, you come back to court when your court date arrives.
Okay. And then second question is just technical, I guess, but in the table, it looks like you added for disorderly conduct directed to add an election official or city transit operator, and then in the ordinance number and statute number, it's 24.02 parentheses 4.5, and it looks like you didn't strike out the 4.
Well, I think that sometimes it's hard to tell when a 4 is struck through because the line goes right through the cross in the 4. We can double check that, but it may be struck out, just hard to see.
Okay.
I've run into that before.
Thank you very much. We always want everything to be exactly right. Alder Martinez Rutherford, go ahead.
Yeah, just one more quick question. Mick, as far as, I guess Mick or Brian, as far as how we discern who we're contacting to come out, like whether it's CARES or PD, can you kind of give me some understanding how the driver is trained around that and how they would approach that situation in a non-physically, I don't know. I'll just stop the question.
Sure. So
in a non-physical thing.
We typically try and leave the determination of whether or not it's CARES or PD who responds to a particular incident up to the 911 dispatcher that we have our dispatchers reach out to, just because we don't know exactly what's going on that bus at any specific moment. And quite frankly, there are some operators who can, speak through the radio extremely calmly through a crazy event, and there are some operators who cannot. So it's difficult to discern that through the ways of communication that we have. So we typically just leave that for the 911 dispatch to determine. And they're very good at asking prying questions of, specifically what's going on and trying to make sure that they send the right resources.
And I can actually follow up on that, Alder, because I have CARES in my portfolio as well. Like Brian said, they're doing constant improvement in order to have the correct response. It would really be the difference mostly of a weapon. If that weapon was present, it would be more likely to send police. But if it seems like a mental health episode that's not including a weapon, we're escalating to physical violence in the way that a police officer need to respond, then it would be CARES in that case.
Awesome. Thank you so much, both of you.
Great. Thanks, Alder. Kaylee, go ahead.
I just want to clarify my understanding. Mike, you mentioned that the police would have discretion about whether to use the penalty enhancer or not, so it wouldn't necessarily change the minimum level of the fine. Does the enhancer change the top end of the penalty range? Or I guess what's actually changing about the penalty range for this type of infraction?
Right. Good question. The penalty section of the disorderly conduct ordinance sets out the range of 300 to 1,000, and then for each section of the ordinance, there can be a different deposit amount, or what we call the bond amount that's written on the citation, and that's what is changing is the amount that would be, or is proposed to be changed, is the amount written on the citation. Now, whenever we change one of those bond amounts, as I think at the end of the ordinance, it states that it has to be approved by the municipal court judge, and the judge has approved this proposal, and that's a way of it's trying to have some safeguard in somebody independent looking at where does this fit in the severity of offenses that the court typically deals with. So yes, what's been changed is the amount that would be written on the citation. It's not changing the maximum amount or the minimum amount, but there is, as you see in the chart, there is no subsection where the maximum amount is used as the bond. I think it would allow the court, I think in a really egregious case, to say, hey, I'm going to increase the penalty, but I'm almost positive that never happens in our municipal court.
But I think you said earlier, Mike, that they have discretion and they could lower it as well, correct?
Right.
Does that answer your question, Kaylee? Okay, great. Lynn, go ahead.
For the people who are having comments regarding the burden of cost on folks who are already marginalized and being impacted financially, I just want to add that first offenders program also, or any parole type situation, also requires them to pay a monthly fee. So there's not just that fine, there's more entailed in being able to get those charges dropped or lessened in any way. So it is a huge financial burden. Not saying someone who attacks a driver shouldn't be, under that kind of duress, but I just want to add that for those who are concerned about the financial burden.
Okay, is that all you had then, Lynn? Thank you. Alder Knox, go ahead.
Thank you. First of all, I'm happy to see some of the recommended changes that Metro's putting in order. I had a conversation with one of my relatives who drives for Milwaukee County. So I'm really glad to see they're looking at some physical barrier. They're also looking at making sure that the fines are increased. I guess and the other thing I like that I saw was the de-escalation training for the drivers. My big question for Metro is, what are your drivers instructed to do if someone would come on and not pay a fare? Would they be instructed not to engage the person, and just would they handle that? Because one of the things that I talked to with the person in Milwaukee was saying they had significant problems with drivers engaging these patrons, and then that resulting in some physical confrontation. So can someone address that issue for me?
Yeah, I can take that. Fare is the number one cause of, or fare disputes is the number one cause of operator assaults nationwide. And specifically at Metro, with our new fare system, it's kind of difficult to tell, if somebody gets on a far rear door, if they actually did tap or not. So the instruction to the operator right now is to not engage, let them board, report it to dispatch, and then we can follow up and identify the individuals who are either regularly evading fare and kind of do it on the back end. But our advice right now is to not engage and to not become involved in any sort of conflict, especially related to fare, just because those can often quickly escalate right away. And to add to your de-escalation training comment as well, that's going to be one of the biggest focuses this summer when we have less UW and MMSD service, when we were able to train more operators. is during that refreshing trainer, it's going to be heavily focused on de-escalation training, not just for fare issues, but for all the issues that operators face on a daily basis.
All right, yeah, thank you, because I'm glad you cited that statistic, because that's certainly what they said in Milwaukee County was the significant issues had to do with the fares, and they had to really kind of, train their drivers not to engage, and find other ways to address that. So thanks for that information.
And Alder Knox, I just wanted to add, and I'm going to actually ask Nick to explain this. We recently have empowered our supervisors to be the ones to step in the case that we're having frequent issues with fare evasion. So part of the point of this is that, it's partly the safety of the riders as well. We don't want the drivers distracted by any of these issues. So that's part of this whole new system as well, part of a package.
Yeah, Mick, did you have any other questions or comments, or Brian?
I had no more.
No, my only comment is that, like Brian mentioned earlier, we are starting to meet with, there's going to be an incident review committee at Metro that Brian's leading, and then there's also going to be a group that's going to meet between agencies, the mayor's office and police and Metro staff, and the Teamsters will be involved as well. We're going to look through all of these incidents and see how we can use all these new tools and see how we can best prevent this from happening in the future.
Okay, thanks, Mick.
Yep.
Anybody have any other comments or questions? Okay, we would need a motion to recommend this to the council, and I have heard some people who aren't perhaps fully on board with this. So my next question is, once we get a motion on the table, is if we want a roll call vote. Alder Martinez Rutherford.
I move approval.
Okay, there's a motion. Bill?
I make second that motion.
Okay, Alder Martinez Rutherford, did you wish to speak to your motion?
Mostly I'm in favor of it because I know how hard it is for the drivers to really go in and serve our community when they're under such threat. So I think it's an important way to hopefully deter people. And yeah, and once again, I would love to see more information about like what the drivers are, but at the moment I am in favor of our drivers.
Okay, thanks. So do we want to have a roll call vote here? Just to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to say whether they support or not. I sense that there were some folks who weren't fully on board. Would that be correct? Okay. Aiden, could you do a roll call vote, please? And I think at this point, Aiden, we still don't have Alder Harrington McKinney here, correct?
Correct, I believe. I didn't see her.
Okay, I'm just double checking, Kayla, because I think you can vote, and I just want to double check. 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't see Alder Harrington McKinney, so that means that you are able to vote, Kaylee. So,
All right. So, William Okovich.
Aye.
Sean O'Brien.
Aye.
Dina Nina Martinez Rutherford.
Aye.
Robbie Weber.
Aye.
Denise Jess.
Aye.
Chris McCahill.
Aye.
Bill Bremer.
Aye.
Harold Clemes.
Aye.
Haley Jameson.
No.
And Lynn Olson.
Yes.
I don't think. Yeah, I don't know that, Lynn. I'm sorry. I don't think you can vote because we only have one regular member. Am I right, Aiden?
We have Pepe and Harrington McKinney. Yeah.
I had seen Pepe here. Did he leave again?
Sorry, maybe
He was here earlier. That's why I asked. No, it looks like he had to leave. So let me just double check. We have people coming and going all the time. 1, 2, 3, 4. It did look like he had to leave, so yes, Lynn, you do get to vote. He was here earlier, Aiden, so
Sure.
which was a surprise.
Sorry, Lynn, did you,
Yes, I am voting in favor. Thank you.
that was 9 yeses and 1 no.
Okay. And then I don't vote because my vote wouldn't make a difference. Okay, thanks everybody. It's great to hear your concerns. I think everybody recognizes how important this topic is. And Mick and Brian, it would be great to hear back from you with an update. When do you think that's appropriate? Maybe after you've had some of these meetings, and you're going to be back when the code of conduct is going to be updated. So that'll be an opportunity for us to hear what's going on. Did you have any last comments about that before we move on?
I would just say that the findings or recommendations that we have from our interagency committee meetings will be shared at this commission, so we can provide somewhat regular updates to y'all on what's going on and what the recommendations are.
That would be great. Thank you so much. Okay, thanks everybody. All right, let's move on to item 7, which is an update on the North-South BRT. I think we have Liz and Mike Chakvala here. Liz Callan and Mike Chakvala. Who's gonna go first?
Good evening, everybody. Mike Chakvala. I will take that invitation. Go ahead and share my screen here. If you'll bear with me.
Before you get started, Mike, do we have anybody registered to speak on this? Aiden?
We do. We have one person.
Okay, all right. So we'll hear from Mike and Liz, and then we'll hear from the public, and then we'll have comments, questions, and discussion. Go ahead, Mike.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So some updates on North-South BRT. Mainly, we wanted to touch base with the commission before we went out to the public so that we could get your feedback on this material. So just to put this out there, we have a website, madisonbrt.com, and then we have email brt@cityofmadison.com. So that's the easiest way to get a hold of us. So about North-South Bus Rapid Transit, as the commission is likely aware, we implemented Bus Rapid Transit on the east-west corridor along current Route A, Rapid Route A, in the metro system. The next corridor that should finish out the core of the BRT system is Rapid Route B, which is North-South Bus Rapid Transit. So we call the project North-South Bus Rapid Transit, but the route is Rapid Route B. About a quarter of Rapid Route B has already been completed with BRT stations and infrastructure through downtown Madison and the Isthmus. That leaves the section in North Madison, the section in South Madison, and the section in Fitchburg to be completed with North-South BRT. About nine miles of new BRT running way, 23 stations. And the locally preferred alternative for this route was adopted in 2024. So we're now moving on to preliminary design. Just some background about Bus Rapid Transit. Service every 15 minutes during most of the day is kind of a key component of it. High quality stations with raised platforms, priority at traffic signals, dedicated lanes with fewer stops, faster fare payment, and all electric 60-foot buses. And some of these improvements have already been implemented with East-West BRT, such as the buses and the fare payment improvements. But the overall plan is to implement more of what we built with East-West BRT. So just an example here of the running way and stations. This is Mineral Point and Rosé at Rosé Station. More stations, more bus lanes, 13.5-inch raised platform for level boarding on the bus, custom shelters, signage, real-time information signs, heat at the stations, lighting, all that kind of stuff. Basically more of the system that we've already built. The buses are already in service. Buses are usually a pretty big component of a BRT project, but because we purchased all of the buses with East-West BRT a year or two ago, those are already in service, and this project will not include any new buses. One thing I just wanted to touch on, because I know we're going to get asked, and I know many people have probably been wondering, we're in a little bit of a different environment with the bus rapid transit with the North-South BRT line than we were with the East-West line. There have been some kind of changes at the federal level. The North-South BRT line does rely on funding from a small starts grant, as the East-West BRT line did. Right now, the direction that we've been getting from the Federal Transit Administration is that nothing has changed. Funding for the North-South BRT line is still in the pipeline. That being said, we don't know if there will be changes, and if there are changes to that, we do have alternative approaches and ways to bring BRT to the North-South corridor. It may look a little different. It may come together in different ways. But we're proceeding with the assumption that we're going to still be applying for a North-South, or for a small starts grant for the project. And just to kind of leave it there, that's really all we know. We're not going to be speculating about various different outcomes and things like that. But that's just kind of an update on where we are on federal funding. For the North-South BRT project status, some of the things that we've completed and continue to work on: locally preferred alternative adopted last year, June 2024. A locally preferred alternative defines the mode, which is bus rapid transit. It defines the route, the stations, the station locations, and kind of the general running way characteristics. It's essentially defining the project so that we know what we're building. The next step is 30% design, so a preliminary design that goes into a little more detail in the improvements, specifies kind of what side of the intersection the stations are on, some things like that. Some just a preliminary design that we need to get somewhat firm so that we can move on to more final design. Environmental documentation and historic preservation, Section 106, is in progress. Round 3 of public and stakeholder involvement is just about to happen now in late April and May. And then ongoing coordination with various stakeholders along the corridor. So 30% design. What is 30% design? Well, it's a preliminary design. It's a rough design that shows where the turn lanes are, how the lanes are being changed. It's horizontal geometry, which laying out what curbs we're replacing, how the stations and running way are laid out along the corridor. So it answers a lot of the questions that some people had during the locally preferred alternative phase. Once we get into final design, we're doing fine tuning on that rough 30% design. So when we get to 60, 90, and 100% design, we're really going into the engineering details, vertical design, so elevations of curbs and things like that, utilities, things that are usually of less interest to the public, but 30% design is a pretty important key step. And then after final design, we would typically bid the project and move towards construction. North-South BRT is kind of divided into North Madison, and then there's the 3.5-mile isthmus that's been completed already. And then South Madison and Fitchburg. Just a review of the locally preferred alternative that was adopted on the north end, and then some minor changes that we're proposing with it. So, this diagram here shows mixed traffic, North Street Commercial and Packers up to about Schlimgen, dedicated lanes on North Packers Avenue and Northport Drive, and then mixed traffic along the Troy School Green Avenue loop. Some minor adjustments that we're going to be proposing to the locally preferred alternative that have arisen in the design process are shown here. So one thing is we're proposing to reverse the Troy and School loop. This was something that was brought to the commission earlier associated with the charger that we're building at Kennedy and Northport there. So we're updating the LPA to reflect that. And then 2 stations on Green Avenue and Troy Drive. We are proposing to convert those to just normal regular bus stops. There are 4 bus stops along Green Avenue and Troy Drive in that segment west of the railroad tracks. They're relatively low ridership. And so, you know, they don't really have the ridership demand that would generate the need for the BRT stations like the rest of the stops do. And we also feel like there's little time savings available by closing the remaining 2 stops. So rather than taking the 4 local bus stops and converting them to 2 BRT stations, we're proposing to just leave the 4 bus stops there that actually will be built pretty soon. You know, so just to back up a little bit, these changes to the locally preferred alternative are pretty minor from the Federal Transit Administration standpoint. We would not be required to. Yes. Sorry. Oh, okay. I'll continue. Sorry about that.
We're gonna wait. We're gonna wait for questions until we have to hear from the public. So.
So anyway, but as we plan and develop this project, we want to make sure that what we're designing and building is consistent with the locally preferred alternative. We want to be transparent. And so we're gonna update the LPA if it needs to be done. On the south side, a couple changes that we're proposing to the locally preferred alternative includes a change in the limits of Park Street reconstruction. Initially we had planned on reconstructing South Park Street with the project between Fish Hatchery and Badger Road. Just in order to bring the costs of the project into line with the funding that we will have available between the City of Madison, federal grants, and WSDOT participation. We think that we will only be able to reconstruct about half of that. So that's reconstruction between Fish Hatchery and Winger Creek, essentially, with the 2 stations, Burr Oak and Hughes, being retrofitted similar to how we retrofitted the stations on Mineral Point. Now, I will say that's what we have funding for currently. We are working through various scenarios that will maintain the reconstruction limits from Fish Hatchery all the way to Badger. So we're working on that, but as of right now, for the funding that we have available, we think we can only get down to about Winger Creek. With the BRT station, with the BRT stations on Park Street, we've also promised a side path along Park Street from Fish Hatch to Badger. So that side path for bikes and pedestrians is still in the locally preferred alternative. So even though we're not reconstructing Park Street between Winger Creek and Badger Road, we are still building the side path. Just a couple other little updates. A couple side running stations in the locally preferred alternative have been converted to center running. And again, that's just looking at the intersections, looking at the design, and kind of looking at how it would come together. And then some updates to bus lane layouts and bus lane locations. Really little minor updates, but again, just looking at how the traffic flow and design came together resulted in a few little updates that basically adjust this map, which represents the locally preferred alternative. So as we put the 30% design together, we have a lot of competing priorities. Obviously, we want to put together the best bus rapid transit system that we can. We want transit reliability and travel times, high quality user experience, all of that stuff. We also have needs from businesses and their access, quality of life and community vision, bicyclists and pedestrian safety, WSDOT, Dane County, and other stakeholders along the corridor. And then, we also need to fit this into the project budget. So there's a lot of push and pull, and we try to get the balance right. But we're asking if we've gotten that balance right, or if we need to adjust things at this step. So the 30% design is going to be a series of boards that will be available to the public. They've been uploaded to this Legistar item, and we'll be kind of showing them to people and trying to get their feedback on the 30% design. This is one example in Fitchburg near Fish Hatchery and High Ridge, which is on the screen. So it has a pretty basic design for that intersection that we hope people can understand, as well as some notes that will help people understand what we're proposing, such as remove island and left turn lane, and no northbound left turn at this location. We've identified possible tree removals, which we've tried to minimize, but there are tree removals along the corridor. This particular location has a new traffic signal that's being proposed so that people can access the station easily with a signalized crosswalk. And then just some notes that describe how the lanes are being adjusted. For example, left lane converted from general purpose to bus only lane, and right lane converted from bus and bike to general purpose, swapping the bus lane from the left to the right. And so we're going to be asking people to look at these boards, focus on the ones that they care about the most, and give us feedback. Hopefully we can answer their questions. We have these 43 boards divided into 3 areas: Fitchburg, South Madison, North Madison. Generally, when we go out, we're going to be focusing on one of these sections. And so they're roughly divided into thirds. So there'll be 10 to 15 boards that represent each one of these sections. And we'll be asking people to, to kind of focus in on those. But as we go out to the public, we will have all of the design available, and we'll have it on our website. So, we'll certainly talk about and have questions answered on any segment, but we'll try to kind of focus for the geographic location that the meetings are in. Goals for public involvement at the 30% design stage. We'd like to distribute the information in a format that people can understand. Try to eliminate some of the engineering jargon and try to really represent the changes that we're proposing with the North-South BRT project. We'll be collecting feedback on things like intersection layouts and configurations. A lot of people have, fairly specific ideas on that. We'd like to answer questions in a meaningful way. I feel, that when we get a question in good faith, that somebody should get an answer that truly answers the question, whether they like it or not. Can't really control that, but we would like to give people solid, firm answers for questions if there is an answer, and maintain and garner support from stakeholders along the corridor. Some of the topics that will come up in the design. So some of the higher level things: what are people going to like? What are they not going to like? What are they going to ask about? What are they going to want to talk about? First is the reconstruction of Park Street. The project limits have been reduced to keep the project within the budget, but there are a lot of trade-offs on Park Street. The corridor width is limited. We've tried to strike the right balance between pedestrians, bicyclists, transit users, motor vehicles, parking, and all the other competing needs along the corridor. We have 4 new traffic signals along the corridor, 1 in Fitchburg, 2 in South Madison, and 1 in North Madison that are being proposed. And we'll have a number of left turn removals. Park Street Park Street is not as wide as Mineral Point Road, and so the design will be a little bit different there. Where we were able to maintain all of the left turns on Mineral Point Road, we will need to remove some left turns on Park Street in order to fit in the BRT stations, as well as to make the intersections safe and have refuges for pedestrians, that kind of thing. Bike facility upgrades. We have a side path along Park Street. We've also proposing some better connections between Park Street and some of the parallel corridors. As we're all probably aware, the bike infrastructure along Park Street is really not as good as it can be. We are trying to solve some of those problems along the corridor, but I don't think we'll be able to solve all of them. So we're doing what we can, and we'll show that and see what people think about it. And then finally, bus stop changes. So BRT has a wider stop spacing than local service that will involve some consolidation of the stops, and so we'll continue to be straightforward about that and collect feedback on bus stop changes. Left turn restrictions are shown here. I'm not going to go through them, but as I mentioned, the majority of them are along Park Street. We do have one in Fitchburg and I believe 2 in North Madison. We've identified the alternative routes that people can take to make the left turn if they were planning on making a left turn. So we'll talk about this and go through it and collect feedback on this. I suspect this might be of interest to some. These are lane continuity diagrams. I'm showing kind of a schematic of almost like a wiring diagram of the lanes and continuity, showing, for example, how many lanes are along the corridor, how many left turn lanes, bus lanes, and how it all kind of flows and fits together. This is something that we've been using to kind of keep track of it all. I don't know if it'll be useful to the public. We might kind of show this. We might have some of this and just kind of see if it's useful for people. I think it might be useful. It might just kind of make it more confusing. So I don't know. Maybe that's something that would be useful to us if you find these kinds of diagrams useful, or if you just find that it just adds to the confusion. We'll kind of see. It's something we haven't shown before, but I think it might be useful, or it may not be. Pedestrian safety is very important to us, and it's important for success of the project. We'll have traffic signals at the majority of stations. There are a couple of stations that won't have traffic signals, but the vast majority of them will. That's basically the reason for the 4 traffic signals we're adding along the corridor. Similar to the East-West project, we added 5 on the East-West projects. We're adding 4 on North-South BRT. We'll have audible pedestrian signals at any of the signals that we touch along the corridor where there's a station. High visibility crosswalks, so the continental crosswalk design with the vertical bars as opposed to the 2 lines. Detectable warning fields where they're required, including at the platform edges, and all stations will be 100% accessible. Just something that we're required to show and be upfront about with the public is changes to parks and potential effects to historic properties. That's a requirement for federal grants, so we'll have that information. Basically, they're very little, no to little impacts on parks, and we expect little to no impact on historic properties. But we will have that information available at the meetings and on our website. Public involvement meetings showing this information. Today is April 23rd. We're at the Transportation Commission, so that one is right now. We'll have a virtual public meeting on April 30th. A goal is to have one that's kind of all-encompassing of the entire route, and then kind of focus in on more of the sections of it. May 1st, we'll have UW. We'll have an open house at the UW. That one will be in the middle of the day. Most of these are evening, but we thought having one in the middle of the day for people who might work second or third shift or something like that would be useful. On that same day in the evening, we'll have a meeting at Warner Park on the north side. And May 13th, we'll be along Park Street at the Labor Temple. And then May 15th, we'll be at Fitchburg City Hall. And then we'll continue to have smaller stakeholder meetings with stakeholders along the corridor. A brief look at the timeline here. So we are in planning environmental review and design called project development. We expect construction to be 2027 and 2028, and then opening for service in 2028. Of course, some of these schedules, these dates could move if things can slip. That can happen. But for now, this is our schedule, hoping to have the system open in 2028. And then I'd just like to give a quick update on the Route B charger on the north side on Northport and Kennedy. This is a project that's happening parallel with North-South BRT. It'll be done in 2025 and 2026. This will support North-South BRT, but to be straightforward, we need it sooner because it will help Route B maintain its schedules and operations today. And we've talked about this, but I just want to give you an update. So that project is currently in design. We expect to have a preliminary design for that pretty soon as well, and have that under construction in 2025 and 2026. We will be reversing the loop as we talked about when that project is complete. And so just a diagram showing that location at Northport and Kennedy. So we'll be heading westbound on Northport, stopping just past Kennedy Road in a new pullout in an area that's currently just a wide terrace. So that's my presentation. Again, we'll have a website, madisonbrt.com, and then the best way to get a hold of us is at brt@cityofmadison.com. And I have the 43 boards up. If you'd like, we can take a look at them. I didn't want to go into that kind of detail directly, but if you'd like me to pull those up, I certainly can, just if you want to see what they look like, or if you want to go to one particular one. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Alder Knox, if you could just hold your comment. Our plan is to hear from staff and then hear from the public and then go to comments or questions. So I'll come back to you first after we hear from the public. Who do we have, Aiden?
We have Graham Mason of Fitchburg supports and wishes to speak.
Okay, go ahead, Graham.
Hi, this is Graham. Are you able to hear me?
We are. Thank you.
All right, great. First of all, so I'm Graham Mason of Fitchburg, and that was a really great presentation. That was really good information on North-South BRT, so thank you for that update. I think that's going to be really good information and a whole bunch of meetings coming up to get that out to the public, so wonderful. I actually joined today's call because I missed the last meeting to talk about the Route D extensions. Since the Route D is not being covered in today's, I was wondering if I could get an update on that.
Why don't I, Mick, can you connect with Graham after the meeting?
Yeah, that would be really helpful. I'd have some feedback on the Route D and just looking for some updates on the different stops and changes that are coming with that.
Okay. I'm assuming, Aiden, that you have Graham's or Ariana, you have Graham's contact information, and you can send that to Mick so that he can get in touch and provide that update.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Great. And if there's anyone else I can get in touch with, let me know as well from the commission, or if anyone else I can reach out to.
Sure. Mick and Aiden can provide you with that information as well.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you both.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Okay. Alder Knox, you had your hand up before.
Yeah. Thank you. Hopefully you guys can hear me.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had a few questions. I guess before the specific ones to this, I guess I just wondered if he could answer a general question of what's the impact of traffic congestion with the bus lanes that we have. I've had some experiences. Is traffic engineering doing studies related to that? Can you give me a kind of a general response to that question?
Yes, thank you for the question. I'd be happy to. So the short answer is we expect very little changes to traffic congestion with the project. So looking at the major corridors on Fish Hatchery Road, we have 2 general purpose travel lanes and a bus lane today. That will be the same with the project. We'll just flip them. We'll just flip the bus lane from the right to the left. There's a little more detail to go into, because there's the bus lane won't function as a right turn lane anymore, but That's a relatively minor change as far as actual capacity and throughway capacity goes. We also have two travel lanes in each direction. Park Street is essentially the same. We have 2 travel lanes today, and then an auxiliary lane that functions in some places as a bus lane, parking lane, in some cases, some combination of bus, bike, and parking. So that lane will be converted to a bus lane over most of the corridor. But we will continue to have 2 travel lanes in each direction on Park Street. The one place on the north side where we'll have a reduction in capacity is on Packers Avenue. On Packers we'll have Packers and some of Northport will have we currently have 3 lanes in each direction. That corridor has more capacity than it needs, so we are able to convert one of the travel lanes to a bus lane without any significant increase in travel delay. One thing we do need to do there is add a second southbound left turn lane from Packers to International. That will improve signal operations and maintain operations on Packers Avenue. We've done traffic modeling along the corridor, and we've shared that with other stakeholders such as Dane County and the Wisconsin Department of Transportation. And so we have done that analysis to show that the impacts are pretty minimal to capacity and traffic congestion.
Okay, I kind of wondered that because I frequent, I believe that's Danner maybe? No, that goes to one lane, and so I just kind of wondered, but Park Street probably will have more capacity than that street. Real quick, you talked about we might need to look at alternative approaches to funding. Do you think this will affect the timeline that you talked about? Or you think we got enough time to figure that out?
Well, again, our current working plan is to continue on the timeline that we have, assuming that we will get the federal funding that we are in the pipeline for. If that changes, we'll have to adjust. How could we adjust with that? If we were to not get a federal grant, delaying the project would be one option, or keeping the project on schedule but reducing the scope in some way, or finding other forms of funding to complete the project. So, again, we haven't really looked into every scenario on how that could play out because, again, our current plan is to continue with the federal funding and the Small Starts grant that we're in the pipeline for. And again, that's kind of all we know at the moment, but I hope that answers your question to some degree.
And I'm sure we'll get clarity as you go into these public meetings that are coming up. I guess when you talked about the Park Street reconstruction limits, to be honest, I didn't quite comprehend what you were saying in terms of funding. Is that something that you'll emphasize clarifying for us in the future, or?
Yeah, we hope to get a answer on Park Street. So again, there's so many things that kind of play into each other and rely on each other on this. There's just a lot of variables. But the short answer on Park Street is we are partnering with the Wisconsin Department of Transportation to reconstruct that in conjunction with the project. And based on the amount of funding that we have between the city, WSDOT, and the federal grant, we only have funding currently to reconstruct from Fish Hatchery to Winger Creek, essentially. But like I said, we're working on different scenarios that could restore the full reconstruct down to Badger Road, and we expect to have an answer on some of that relatively soon here, within the next month or two. We probably won't have it by the time we start the public meetings, which will be next week already, but we expect to have an answer on that part of it relatively soon.
Okay, and my only other concern, which you'll probably get to as we go along is, you know, when you say that you're adding traffic signals to Park Street plus maybe eliminating some left turns, I would assume that's going to impact the traffic flow as well. You have any comments on that?
Yeah, so we're adding 2 traffic signals on Park Street. One is at a Park and Cedar, which has been on our radar for quite some time. Thoughts of having a traffic signal there. The other traffic signal would be at Burr Oak Lane, which is opposite of Beld Street, where Beld Street comes back in at the bottom of Beld Street there. So the short explanation on this is that on an urban corridor with traffic signals, the capacity is constrained by your larger traffic signals, your traffic signals at your big intersections. For example, Park and Badger, Park and Fish Hatchery, Park and West Washington, East Washington and First, East Washington and Stoughton Road, those big signals, because those signals will have less green time compared to the smaller signals. And so the smaller signals along the corridor, from a high level perspective, don't really affect capacity, because we will have more green time at Park and Cedar, for example, than we have at Park and Fish Hatchery. So if the traffic coming south from Park and Fish Hatchery is metered by how much capacity releases from that intersection, there will be that much capacity or more at the Park and at Cedar intersection. Now, it does impact travel times for people driving and for the buses to be straightforward. But, you know, overall, I think the city has sort of prioritized the safety and the ability to cross the street as opposed to the delay caused by having to wait for a traffic signal.
I think that's something that traffic engineers should look at real carefully. I'll give you an example now. If you're on Badger Road trying to make a left turn onto Park Street, you can barely make that turn before that arrow turns red right now. I swear you won't even be able to make the turn before it turns red. So I think there's a lot of traffic signaling issues on Park Street right now. Adding a couple of lights, I get it, it slows the traffic down for safety's end, but it's definitely going to slow everybody's time. And that's got to be one of the busiest thoroughways into the city, Fish Hatchery and Park Street. So, well, we can talk about that later. I appreciate the information you've shared. Thanks.
Yep, absolutely. Yep, thank you.
And Mike, you continually work with traffic engineering on all of that, don't you?
Routinely. Yep. They're involved in this. They're
okay. Great. So it sounds like offline conversations can continue on that. Thank you, Alder Knox. Harold, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Thanks, Mike, for the great presentation. Couple questions, comments. You mentioned that not all of the stations will have signalized crossings. Can you say which ones don't have that?
Sorry, it's unmuted. Yes, I can. So you'll have to bear with me. I'll have to go through it in my mind. Starting on the south end, the Caddis Bend station in Fitchburg is on a street that is very low volume. Think of it as, you know, kind of like Sheboygan Avenue or something, where Sheboygan and Eau Claire, for example, is a station that we don't have a traffic signal. The Caddis Bend station will function very similar to that. So that station will not have a traffic signal. The Fish Hatchery and Badger station will actually be slightly farther east towards Catalpa Trail, which is the next signal, and so that will be on Badger Road, and so there will not be a signal directly connecting that station to the sidewalk. That was just the way we had to fit it in there. So that's pretty similar. That'll be again a center running island station. And that's the way we had to fit that one in on Badger, just east of fish hatchery. Going through Park Street, they should all be at traffic signal controlled intersections with the addition of Burr Oak signal and Cedar signal. Going up through the isthmus, they're all on traffic signals. When we get up on the north side, the commercial station, which is at North and Commercial, that station will be a center running island station at a 4-way stop sign. So that'll be a 4-way stop sign with a center running station just west of the intersection. And then getting onto Packers Avenue, Packers and Schlingen is not signalized now, but it's in the plans to add a signal at Packers and Schlingen so that signal is there. The next one up is Packers and Elka. That intersection is currently uncontrolled by anything. We are working to try to get a traffic signal in there. We probably won't be successful. That will probably end up being a rapid flashing beacon, simply because there are no conflicting vehicle movements to kind of help us with the signal warrants on that one. And then the only the one remaining is at Troy and School. So the Troy and School, again, Troy is a pretty local street. Troy and School would never warrant a traffic signal. It's a pretty low speed environment, and so we'll have an enhanced crosswalk at that one.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I mean, I think most of these sound, it's fine, especially center running. You only have a single lane of traffic to cross, except for, what was it? Northport, Packers?
I think Packers and Elka is the one that that's the only one that I think we'd like to have a signal there, but like I said, I kind of doubt we're going to get it.
Okay. Yeah, I think continuing to look into that, because I mean that's multi-lanes and crossing there without like a rapid flashing beacon on multi-lane roads. I mean, I know we've had some bad experiences with that.
Yeah, and the other weird thing with that one is it's very close to that strange, very large intersection at Packers and Northport, and so the lanes are still kind of coming together there. So that one's a little weird.
Okay. Eliminating left turns, I have the suspicion that a lot of people will have things to say about that. Do you have a strategy on how you're going to assess public feedback on that? Where I think what's often happening is people who use these intersections by cars to turn regularly will speak up very loudly, rightfully so, because they have to change their behavior, whereas the benefits are often more diffuse. Like nobody's going to be like, oh yeah, sure, we should totally eliminate that left turn. So I think having a strategy on how to present this to the public and then how to take that public feedback would be useful. So I think talking about why you eliminate left turns, what the additional cost, both financially and to safety, to operations, would be of maintaining those left turns. I think that's really important. I think we've seen that with some of the turns on Mineral Point, where we maintained the left turns, but it came at a great cost where we needed additional width of the intersection, probably additional cost with the signals and all of that. So I think, that's a fine balancing act there. Then another thing that I think I would personally be interested in at a future meeting, to just have a relatively high level overview of the cost components of the project. Like, this much goes for reconstructing Park Street, this much is for stations, this much is for signaling. I'm not sure what the categories would be. I think Tom Lynch brought that for the East-West BRT to the Board of Public Works maybe at some point. So both what are the major cost categories, and then also what are the funding sources that hopefully go into this. I think that would be helpful for the commission, just to get a sense of stations actually make up only 3% of the budget, whereas reconstructing Park Street is, I don't know what the percentages are, but I think that would be helpful. And then finally, I don't know if that's something that you do for the 30% stage, probably not, but I think one thing that we saw with East-West BRT, the question of bike racks at and near the station, I think that was kind of added on pretty late in the process, and so maybe it would be better to look at that a little bit sooner to figure out like, oh yeah, here's actually a good spot where we can have bike share, where we can have bike parking at or near the stations. And finally, I'm glad to see that it seems like you have switched some of the stations to center running, which I think generally is a good thing. So I'm glad it came to that. All right, thanks. That's all I had.
Yeah, thanks. I think there were a couple questions in there that I think I'll try to just hit briefly. So the strategy for the left turns, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think we're going to try to clearly describe, what and why we're doing it and kind of what the alternatives are and costs if we were to try to maintain them. In many cases, it just kind of can't be done. And then trying to filter the feedback that we get. I do agree with you. I think that will be a controversial topic. Each one is a little bit unique. They're all kind of their own. They all have their own justification and rationale and alternatives and all that kind of thing. So some of them, I think there are alternatives, and if they're problematic, we could probably adjust the design and at the cost of something else, maintain this left turn. Some of them, we would really scratch our heads trying to say, how would we possibly fit the station in with the left turn lane? One thing we don't want to do is have left turns on Park Street from that doesn't have a left turn lane. We just, with the center running BRT, and the risk of backing up traffic and the safety impacts of all of that, it really needs to have it's kind of a left turn lane or nothing. So, and then finally, you asked about funding and several funding questions. But yes, we can certainly bring that information back. We do have that information. Some of it is sort of a moving target at the moment, and so it's sort of like, well, this is a snapshot of what it is right now. To give you a brief snapshot, it's about a $180 million project. Like I said, almost all of that is running way improvements and stations. About a third of that, I'm not going to put a number, but roughly a third in that range is the reconstruction of Park Street. And clearly the stations and the BRT and the bus lanes are all kind of mixed into that. But that's a huge chunk of it is the reconstruction of Park Street. Probably a little bit less than a third, but kind of in that ballpark.
Thank you.
Thanks, Harold. Denise, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, and thanks, Mike, for the really useful presentation. So I've got, I think, 3 or 4 questions and a related comment. So just picking up on what Harold asked, and I think you may have addressed it in your answer, but those places where there's not going to be signal crossing, will you just automatically do enhanced visibility crosswalks of some sort, or is that kind of discretionary as well?
We intend to have the high visibility continental style crosswalks at all stations.
Fabulous. Thank you. Then thinking about the public engagement and folks who either can't see the maps and boards or can't understand them. I appreciate that there's going to be notes with them. So the comment I have is for staff who are doing those public engagement sessions to be descriptive and be willing to describe more if there are questions from blind folks or folks with cognitive disabilities, intellectual disabilities, who really articulate what the changes are so that folks can understand them if they can't access the maps. And then if folks are on the website and trying to access the info, who's it best for those questions to be directed to? Someone that could really explain what's going on.
Yes, all of those good points, and yeah, that's a good thought. That's something we'll definitely try to do, and that was our thought with the boards. You know, we employ engineers who are really good at doing this work and setting this up, but we feel like we have a little bit better of a voice in how we describe these things, and so we've tried to make that a little bit more clear of what changes we're proposing and how things will fit together. For these meetings, we're going to try to do them a little bit more open house style, and that will allow us to kind of describe individually to people. Because there's really, like you said, there's really no way to go through 43 boards, go through all the notes and describe them to everybody. It's like today I didn't even try because we'd be here forever. So that's kind of our approach. Yeah, we'll still be here forever.
And then if somebody has specific questions, should they just email the BRT at City of Madison and and maybe connect with a staff person who can verbally go through things with them?
Correct. Yes, that is the best way to do it. I, as well as others on this call, have access to that email address, brt@cityofmadison.com. If something comes in, we see it right away, and we can get back to them. If they email us in a different language, for example, we have the resources and we can get back to them in a way that's appropriate. If they use the phone, they should probably just call our main line at 608-266-4466, and our customer service department will be able to help them and get them to the right person.
Awesome.
Denise,
thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
Can I just hop in here for a second? Just for a second.
Of course.
If there are stakeholder meetings that you have a lot of stakeholder meetings that you're talking about having, Denise, if there are stakeholder meetings with a group who may have some of these needs that you're talking about for additional descriptors or whatever, maybe that would be an additional way to handle it, is to have focus groups where you have additional descriptors and a different kind of meeting so that you can accomplish what you're hoping for, Denise, perhaps?
I think so. I was thinking about that too. And Mike, we could have an offline conversation, maybe partnering up with Access to Independence and maybe hosting in my space since I'm more central than Jason is. But yeah, let's kind of explore that and see if, and the other thing is I want to make sure there's be enough people coming out that it would be worth your time. So let's do an offline conversation about a specific stakeholder meeting for people with disabilities.
Absolutely. Let's do that.
Yep. Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you. And then my last question, and this is just more of, I'm trying to imagine it. So the bus stops on the loop out on Troy Drive are going to be standard bus stops. So how do those work with the higher profile buses for people to have ease and access, especially if they're using a mobility device or getting on with a bike?
Right. So those would function essentially like the bus stops currently do on Route B. This is just 4 stops on Troy and Green west of the railroad tracks. And so they will all have accessible boarding pads that will be built this summer. And so people would typically board at the front door as they currently do, and we'd use the front door ramp. And
Gotcha.
that's how they would board.
Cool.
Yeah, bikes would still probably board it. They would still board through the back door.
Okay. Thank you. That's it. That's it. I appreciate that a lot.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Denise. Alder Okovich, go ahead. You're next.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to echo a lot of what Harlan said about just making sure that we have pedestrian, and he said about having pedestrian safety improvements at the stops. I had a question on the Aberg stop specifically, and I was wondering if you could comment on why you continue to choose side running lanes that go down the exits, and what sort of impact that has on the runtime of this station versus doing a center running station further down Packers.
Yeah, good question. I was hoping we could get into something like this. Let me bring up that drawing. So that's a good excuse. So here's the north section of sheets. So you kind of skip over the central, just kind of show that those are existing. Here's the Milwaukee North Station. We go through up north in commercial. Here's the north and commercial station. That's the four-way stop, and then we turn right and go up Packers Avenue. And so now I'm showing the Packers and Aberg interchange and stations. We looked at several different options here. We could either come down the ramps and go down and up the ramps as we currently do. We could also stop at a center running platform in the middle of Packers Avenue. We also looked at, what if we took down this grade separated interchange and just made a normal four-way intersection with a normal traffic signal, or perhaps some other intersection control and rebuilt the whole thing with a BRT station in the middle. So I will go through some of those alternatives. If we put it in the median of Packers Avenue with the interchange essentially the way it is, there would be several problems. Firstly, the main problem is space and vertical circulation. So if we had a platform in the middle, we would have to get people down to street level on Aberg Avenue. That could be either a ramp or it could be a series of stairs and elevators. The ramp would have to be ridiculously long, so you'd have to walk down this ramp in the middle of Packers Avenue. So you'd walk up Aberg, and then you'd walk under the bridge, and then you turn and go up this ramp that kind of goes forever up Packers Avenue to where the station is, somewhere on the north side of the interchanges is where we looked. And we thought that would be very costly and also not particularly pleasant. In addition, with the retaining walls and bridge modifications, we'd probably end up tearing down the bridge anyway, or making serious modifications to that bridge. The cost would just sort of skyrocket, and we'd end up with something that we really don't want anyway. We also investigated the option of tearing the entire thing down and just building a conventional four-way interchange. We chose not to do that option, mainly because of the cost. The bridge is in fairly good condition, so we wouldn't really get any financial support from WSDOT or anything else. We also kind of don't really know what's going to happen with this area because of redevelopment on the southwest and the northeast quadrant. And so we elected to just sort of build something that worked with the existing geometry. But with one station and a lot going on here, we feel that probably the future is converting this to an at-grade intersection and rebuilding the station in the median. But it just didn't feel like the time was right for that. Overall, we needed to kind of reduce the funding gaps on the project, and this was a pretty easy win for reducing the funding gaps. As far as the impact of going through here on travel times, it's essentially similar to going through one additional intersection. So instead of being able to skip the signalized intersection, we'll have to go through the traffic signal as we do today. So there would be a travel time savings that we could get if we did do that online stop, which we won't be able to get, but it really won't be that much different from a normal going through a normal traffic signal. One thing that we are doing is making a slight geometry improvement on the northbound ramp that will allow the bus to exit from the middle lane of Packers Avenue and bypass quite a bit of traffic. So the traffic backups at this interchange are really people going northbound, turning left on Aberg, going towards Highway 30 and Cottage Grove and Milwaukee or wherever they're going. So they're making the right turn, but BRT is going straight. And so this slight geometry adjustment to the curb and Gore area on the northbound ramp will allow us to bypass those people going east towards Milwaukee or wherever they're going. Real quick, the other thing we looked at was doing side running platforms on the main line of Packers Avenue. That would probably be the best and easiest and most achievable way to have us go through over the bridge and not go through the traffic signals. That was kind of the leading contender here. Again, that would just sort of add cost, and it would sort of create some of these ramps that, you know, you'd walk up the ramp for kind of a long ways. And we didn't think that was super desirable. We elected to go with this option where the existing stops basically are converted to BRT stations. So I hope that explanation helps.
Yep, that helps very much.
Yeah, there's a story like this for like all of these. I'm telling you.
Well, you'll have to tell me another time.
Another time.
Another time. We'll get coffee. Thank you, Mike.
Yep.
Okay, thanks, Alder. Bill, go ahead.
Thanks, Sam. Mike, I don't have any questions, but I just have a comment, and it's regarding maybe the board or a slide that you showed as far as the lane configuration and diagram. If you could bring up that picture, you've got that handy. I just have some comments about that as I was reviewing the material. Yes, so it was beneficial or useful to me, but I think what was initially when I looked at it was confusing was the colors. Finally, I determined that the red means that they're turns and the blue means they're straight. But I don't think it's not shown in the on the description down below. So I don't know if you need the two colors or not, but I'll leave that up to you. But the other, I guess maybe I do have a question is are these the proposed or are they all the existing today?
These are proposed.
Okay.
And yes, I agree with you. Liz and I have been talking about the colors, and we have some ideas. But yeah,
Okay.
I think that's.
I think with the double colors was kind of confusing. That's what, and it may be confusing to the public as to what those are. And I think maybe that in a statement that, you know, these are the proposed and not necessarily what the public sees today out there is the number of left turn lanes or right turn lanes and so forth. So I think that, and I don't know if that would be, apparently you've got them at the 30% level. So, you know, maybe that's worth pointing those out overall if somebody's got interest at the specific section that they're interested in or not. So, but yeah, I found them useful, but I think it was just the color combination threw me when I first saw these.
Okay. Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think we're gonna work on the colors. So the red is turn lanes, and the dash is bus lanes. But
yeah,
I almost feel like the turn lanes could just be the same blue color.
I think so. I don't know that there's necessarily people are that worried. Well, I don't know, maybe some people will be, but whether there's two lanes or two left turns or only one, whatever. But I do think it may be necessary to say this is the lane configuration after or when the BRT is proposed. Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Harold, go ahead.
Yeah, on that point, I wanted to talk about that earlier, and thanks for reminding me, Bill. I think this is not helpful for the public. I mean, I kind of enjoy it, but it took me a long time to figure out what's going on, even with the improvements that you make, that you are considering. Like there's the belt line where it gets really confusing, like it's only the BRT route going over what I suppose is a bridge. And yeah, I think it's more confusing than enlightening for the general public. I mean, maybe have them ready if you sense that somebody is a real nerd and really wants to see this kind of stuff. But I think otherwise it raises more questions than it answers. That's my take on it. Thanks.
Yep, that sounds good. Yep. I think that's probably where we're going. I think we'll probably kind of have these, and if it feels like it answers somebody's question, maybe we'll pull them out. I don't know. We'll see.
Other comments or questions? Okay, great update. And we'll look forward to hearing about hopefully some additional resources to complete that whole stretch of Park Street reconstruction. And we'll also be anxiously awaiting any new updates on the federal financing as well. So
Thank you,
great
everybody.
update. Yeah. Anybody have any other comments before we let Mike and Liz go? Okay, thanks so much. Okay, next we have Safe Streets Madison, and I'm just going to ask at the beginning, Aiden, doesn't look like we have anybody in the attendees section, so do we have anybody registered to speak?
We did, but they sent in a written comment instead. So I'll keep an eye out just in case they join, but
Okay. All right, do you want to maybe after the presentation, you can let us know about the written comment before we go into comments and questions?
sure. Yeah, I can forward it now, actually.
Okay, all right, that'd be great. Okay, Tom, go ahead. Maybe introduce yourself to the alders who may or may not know you. You're still muted there, Tom.
Sorry, when I share my screen, I lose all my controls and I can't find it, so I'm gonna reshare. So yeah, I'm Tom Moore. I'm a assistant director of traffic engineering. I've been working in the Safe Streets program since we started it a few years ago. And I'll just I know not everyone's familiar with this. Can you see my screen?
Well, we're seeing a whole bunch of screens, Tom.
Okay.
We're seeing like 3 screens at one time.
Interesting.
They were like one on top of the other.
Okay. I think this should work.
That's better.
Yeah. I'm not seeing the
There you go.
okay, you're seeing the presentation now, right?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll just go through an overview of the program quickly because I know not everyone is familiar or has seen this presentation before.
Yang has his hand up there, Tom.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Yang.
Hey, Tom, do you mind using the presentation mode so folks can have a bigger view on their screen? Because like some of the maps, the text, I think would be beneficial if it is bigger.
I've got
Yeah,
10 screens here. Yeah, I do have the presentation mode going on, but it pops up on a different screen.
Yeah, we're not. Yep.
I'm gonna try this one more time.
So on the top left corner, there is a kind of switch. You can switch which screen, which mode you are sharing. So if you start sharing again, I can walk you through it.
Okay, how about now?
Yes,
Perfect.
perfect.
Thank you.
Okay. They used to give the red box to show what you're sharing, and I'm not seeing that, but all right.
I think it's an updated version of Zoom, Tom. So
Okay. I haven't done this before. So
Yeah.
all right. Yeah, I'll go through the presentation and then we'll look at projects. So we have a web page, a lot of detailed information on this web page. We try to keep it updated. We have the Safe Streets Madison report. That's where all the details are. If you really want to get into it, we posted the spreadsheet, the actual Excel file, so you can just makes it easier to sort through things, and otherwise it's just too much data just in a PDF. But yeah, that's kind of the main place to go to stay updated. Okay, so Safe Streets Madison. Yeah, we created it a few years ago. I think 2022 was the first year. But it implements traffic safety measures to eliminate traffic deaths and serious injuries on city streets. So looking at high crash areas and especially not only crash areas, but injury crash locations. It looks into improving connectivity by closing gaps in the pedestrian and bike networks. and we align with ongoing city initiatives such as Vision Zero and Complete Green Streets. So the process for the program is we keep this spreadsheet of requests and projects, and we bring that to you at the TC twice per year. I think last year we may not have done that. I think we came around this time last year, but we were kind of had a backlog of projects. But we do intend to bring it twice per year, so we'll probably come back sometime around October of this year with a new round. And we do some pre-screening, and I'll get into that a little bit later when we talk more about the scoring. Well, part of that pre-screening is cross-referencing with different projects within the city. So this is a map of our Safe Streets for All grant that we were awarded. So there's many different locations as part of that grant, so we have to cross-reference that grant with the Safe Streets Madison program, and it's kind of confusing since they have such similar names. But that is a separate federal grant that we try to put those notes in the spreadsheet just to point that out, that a project might have already been approved through this federal grant. We cross-reference with the transportation improvement plan, and sometimes we look for opportunities to do higher level projects with these bigger reconstructions and resurfacings. And then of course BRT, which you just heard about. So for funding for this year, I mentioned it was a little bit lower than previous years. So just over 1.1 million for 2025. As part of that budget, 490,000 is dedicated for life cycle management. So that's for replacing things like RRFBs and DFBs and the green markings that have a shorter lifespan than concrete changes. A big part of Safe Streets Madison and scoring is a high entry network. And our high entry network is a little bit outdated right now, but we do plan on updating it this year. We're going to work with the TOPS lab on doing that, and we figure that'll be complete fall of this year. And we plan on improving it with not only the overall high entry network, but we'll have a specific pedestrian only high entry network and a separate bicycle only high entry network. So since we were here last year, I just wanted to provide an update of the projects that we completed during that year period. So that's listed here: RFBs, speed humps, bump outs, speed limit reductions, green bike markings, high visibility crosswalks. The pedestrian countdown timers, our shop electrical staff was able to complete each one of those locations that was in the campus area. A few different islands, and we had a road diet on Lean Road that we were able to complete last fall. So now I'll get into the projects. Some of the projects here that I'll go into a little bit more detail. So these are all projects that are included in the attachment of the spreadsheet that we're requesting approval. So Regent Street in Lafayette, this is an intersection that's a direct route to the school. So no crosswalks here. We want to improve that for this residential area and especially kids walking to school. Stein Avenue, this is part of the improvements with the Autumn Ridge Trail and path and overpass that was recently completed. So this is just improving the on-street portion of that path to create a bike boulevard. Odana Road at Midvale Boulevard. You can see on this aerial how the bike lanes just end before we get to the intersection. We plan to extend those bike lanes into the intersection, add bike detection, bike boxes. So basically complete that gap that has been there for a while. This is Broome Street parking protected bike lanes. So this is not labeled here, but between West Washington Avenue and West Main Street. So we had the recent project on Broome Street to add in the off-street path and then the on-street cycle track that ends at Main Street. And there's Broome Street's set up pretty well for parking protected bike lanes. It's the same width as Bassett Street, but with fewer driveways. So fewer driveways and no garbage collection. So some of the issues that we have on Bassett, we won't have on Broome Street. This is West Gilman Street. So this is between State Street and University Avenue. This is just a quick drawing, but this block of West Gilman Street is a one-way kind of northbound. So we'll add in sharrows for the northbound direction and a dedicated bike lane for the southbound direction in the contraflow or counterflow direction. We've got a few locations like this, and they seem to work out okay, especially on low volume streets. And this location specifically is a good kind of alternate route to West Gorham Street, which especially right now, right now is under construction with the development between Gorham and Johnson Street. So looking at the video, people do use West Gilman Street in the counterflow direction, so we think it's a good idea to call that out as a proper way to use it. For speed limit reductions this year, this is just an overview map of the different locations we've chosen, 4 different locations. Yeah, each one, different reasons. Old Sauk Road is kind of continuation of the speed limit to the east. Same thing with Raymond Road. We also had a recent fatality in that section. West Washington Avenue is adjacent to the park, Brittingham Park. And then East Park Boulevard is being developed with the new hospitals and clinics out there, and quite a bit more pedestrian crossings of East Park Boulevard now. This one's been on our list for a while. This is University Avenue. I'm sure everyone's familiar with the bike lane on University Avenue. This is the bike lane, the floating bike lane that's with traffic. The markings are about as minimal as they can be right now, and I think it's far past time that we improve those to make it more visible, especially the fact that it's in between the bus lane and the general purpose lane, and right turns are weaving, and there's just a lot going on. You know, probably the highest concentration of crashes with bikes and peds is along this corridor. So we have a little schematic of what that would look like, kind of matching the red BRT markings with the green bike. King Street, this is just one where it's kind of an overbuilt, unused lane, that westbound lane. I can show it in this picture. So this is looking down the hill. There's about a 20-foot grade difference from Wilson Street down at the far end to Doty Street. So it's about a 5% grade coming up. This does get used by bicyclists right now that use the right turn only lane. We no longer have a bus stop, or with the permanent condition, we won't have a bus stop on inbound King. There's no on-street parking, so this is a pretty simple, just convert that to a buffered bike lane. The outbound direction is downhill, so it's much easier for bikes to use the existing lane. But yeah, this is a pretty simple connection to make. Monterey Drive, this is next to Warner Park, so there's a little playground here. This has been on our list for a while too. This was in a neighborhood resource team suggestion. We have a playground, but there's no accessible access to that playground. There's no ped ramps, there's no crosswalk. So simple adding in the ped ramps and mid-block crosswalk to make that playground easier to get to. We've got a list of rectangular rapid flashing beacons, 5 different locations. Each one of these, I think each one of these are important, good locations. We've got a few different school crossing guard locations, Maple Grove Drive at Keswick, Whitney Way at Russet. Watts Road at Cockey was a high injury location. Watts Road gets a lot of volume. Monroe Street at Randall, very high pedestrian area around a curve on Monroe Street. And then Wright Street at Straubel, that's kind of just south of Madison College, kind of a long stretch of Wright Street where there isn't a great crossing. There's an existing crosswalk there, but we want to add the RRFB. So again, here's the speed limit reductions. I think I just put that in the wrong location. This is North Owen Drive at Lucia Crest Park. This is Blackhawk Avenue that goes north-south to the right. It's kind of an interesting location of a park and playground right on a curve of Owen Drive, so there's a lot of pedestrian crossings. We did add some signage, I think a year or two ago, tried to make some small improvements to this to increase the safety, but we're still getting similar complaints about difficult visibility, just a difficult spot for getting to this playground. So we think this is a good location for speed humps. Even though we haven't had the injury crashes here, we think for this specific location with the park and playground, this is a good place to put them in. Now here's a list of intersections that we want to improve the traffic signal infrastructure. So each one of these locations allow permissive only left turns, and we want to provide the signal heads to get protected permissive left turns. Each location has left turn crashes associated with it. They're listed in the spreadsheet with their different scores, so they score differently, but these tend to score a little bit lower because of the high cost. But the left turn crashes tend to be, some of the more severe crashes that we see, and that we think that this is a good fix for these locations. This one is Odana Road west of Whitney Way. So this is Odana Road running east-west that we had a road diet a few years ago with the resurfacing project. This used to be a 4-lane street, but we converted it to 3 lanes with the bike lanes. And this location right here has been cause of complaint and driver confusion and congestion. So there's different things going on here that's causing this. You've got the dual left turn from Whitney Way that then has to immediately merge into 1 lane. And there's a high volume of right turns going into the driveway. There's left turns that go to the driveway to the south. There's a health club here. And then all of that combined with eastbound Odana Road gets the high volume of right turns to Whitney Way in the afternoon. It's routinely backed up beyond this proposed island. And what people end up doing is using the center turn lane as a bypass lane to get around that congestion, which can happen at the same time as someone trying to turn left into the driveway. So, we've got a camera out here and we watch this, and it's been, you pretty much see it every afternoon. So we think that this is time. I think we originally thought we couldn't fit an island in here, but with the turning movements, we can fit an island in and still allow the left turns around that island. So again, this is one where it doesn't score high because there aren't crashes associated with it, but just watching the video, it really is kind of a crash waiting to happen. We only have 3 years of history with this, but yeah, we think this is a fairly simple fix that's worth it. So that was a few of the requested projects or projects that were requesting approval. The full list is on the PDF that is also attached to this agenda item. And then the full Excel spreadsheet is on the Safe Streets webpage. So you can download that spreadsheet. We've got different, we have different tabs at the bottom that show information regarding the scoring. The full candidate list, this is with the 600 plus candidates. We have a different tab with projects that have been approved that are not yet completed. We plan on doing a lot of these this summer. Or this is this 2025 citywide contract that has gone out to bid, and the contractor will start this soon. And then a list of the completed projects. So we're continually updating this. We'll probably post updates to the webpage. We hope to do it every month, but maybe at least quarterly. So yeah, that's the presentation. We can get into discussion about any of these. I could talk about any of these for a while. So
Okay.
yeah. Thanks.
All right, Robbie, go ahead with your question.
Yeah, the university in Highland is literally dear to my home, or my heart, since I often go through that intersection on foot and by bike. I'm just curious, are you going to put left turn arrows in all directions, or only eastbound on University? I mean, how is it going to be a four-way left turn arrow?
We have a few different, or I think two different options there. We could add them in the eastbound and the southbound directions are the two most important at that location. That's what we were hoping to do because that's where the congestion is, and especially in the southbound in the afternoon, it's pretty bad. There's just enough northbound traffic that keeps that southbound traffic, and that's that hospital traffic that's coming down south on Highland Avenue.
There.
Yeah. So that was the plan here, and we can do that fairly simply. But yeah, this southbound direction. So this is the VA driveway. This gets backed up all the way to the VA driveway. It goes through the ramps and through the bike path crossing here. So we think just adding that left turn phase will help clear that out and reduce that congestion.
Okay, so you're talking about southbound Highland and eastbound University.
Yep. Eastbound.
Those would get arrows.
Yep.
Okay. And I'm just sort of wondering I am a little less familiar with some of the other intersections, but the Proudfit, West Washington and Regent, are you doing all way? I mean, are you doing left arrows for all legs there, or what's the story?
For this one, I think it is in the north, along West Wash. I'm actually not 100% sure. I'm wondering if we have it listed in here. Oh no, it's not. I would have to look that up, but I think it's on West Washington Avenue is the important ones.
Okay. I was just curious about that. Yeah, I think people in my neighborhood will be really happy that there's left turn arrows so that we're not trying to cross and hoping that a left turning driver who sees an opening doesn't smack us in the crosswalk.
Right. It will help overall congestion. It will help the pedestrian crossings. It's just something that really should have been done a while ago.
Thanks.
Thanks, Robbie. Harold, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Thanks, Tom. As per usual, great set of projects. So with the protected lefts, does that usually then mean you change the signal phasing? Like, I'm wondering, like, does this cut short the walk time for pedestrians?
It will change the timing a little bit, and we don't have to use it all the time. So likely they would be used during the peak times. But I think at each of these locations, there's quite a bit of flexibility in the timing. They're not so congested that it's going to be, you know, it's going to be creating congestion. Really, it should just improve the movement or improve the overall operations. And like I said, if it's during off peak, we don't need to put them in or have it turned on.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I just want to make sure, I mean, this is not the congestion relief program, that's the Safe Streets Madison program, and protected lefts absolutely are great for safety. I just want to make sure that they don't have unintended side effects where now the pedestrian phase is half as long, and which then might draw people to like walk when the don't walk sign is on. So just making sure, because and especially the university in Highland, there's like a very high volume of people walking in all directions. So making sure that we don't implement those protected left turns at the cost of pedestrian movement.
Yep, that's a good point.
Other question about the Odana near Whitney. Can you say maybe a little bit more larger picture? I know we've talked about the actual Odana-Whitney intersection previously. There was or is the highway safety improvement project that I think was done already, that WisDOT did. I know when this was at TC, there was some maybe dissatisfaction with the scope of that, where it seemed to be like, yes, it's a safety improvement project, but this intersection has many more problems. And we were thinking like, well, maybe there will be other improvements. And then I think specifically to this project, I mean, the root cause here is the dual left turn, right? You have the dual left turn from Whitney. And then, as you said, you quickly need to merge, and that's causing all of these issues. So what's, I guess, the bigger picture with the intersection, where I think also we just had a severe injury crash a couple of days ago. I think that was on the other corner.
Yep. Yeah. So yeah, you're correct about all of that. Yep. There was just a recent severe injury, pedestrian crossing the north leg of the intersection, struck by a southbound vehicle that ran the red light. This is a HSIP project. It's currently in design, but this one can be easily confused with Gammon and Watts, which is kind of the same thing. Gammon Watts was just constructed this past or summer of 2024. This construction is scheduled for 2027, so we're kind of in the middle of the design right now. But very similar, improving the pedestrian ramps and signal indicators. But overall, this is just an extremely congested intersection in all directions during the peak hour, or especially during the afternoon peak hour. So there's high volume eastbound into it, westbound into it, southbound into it. Very high volume northbound in the morning. So just looking at the volumes, we don't really have an opportunity to get rid of this dual left. It's still kind of both lanes are highly utilized. If we were to eliminate any of the lanes, we would quickly have backups to the Beltline and likely onto the Beltline. So it's just a really tough intersection to get to take anything away without really increasing the congestion, and then with that, and the queues and backing up into different into the upstream or intersections. So this project is kind of outside of the limits of that HSIP project, just to deal with the two driveways here, and the merging issue. The other issue we've noticed here is that drivers will queue here to turn left into this driveway, which we looked into closing off, but then that creates operational issues with this site and the drive-through that you can see here with this line. So it's just a very busy area with different things going on, and we're hoping that at least this little change can help sort things out for drivers. And this will physically block people from using this as a bypass lane. And this is what we've done further west on Odana Road, adding in a series of center islands to prevent that center lane from being used as a passing lane further to the west. I think we've put in about 10 of these center islands so far.
So you're saying that people are making a left turn from westbound Odana into that first driveway there?
Yep. If you can see,
legal?
That's a legal left turn into this site. Some people turn left here. We're looking into this. Yeah, I don't know if it's shown on this aerial, but this is a drive-through to this business here. So we would have to work out some issues with how that site operates in order to close off this driveway, which we may be able to do, but we, for now, either way, we wanted to do this as soon as we could.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I mean, that seems like a really dangerous left turn movement with like the shared bike lane, two travel lanes, and that just seems, we can eliminate that. That seems like a big safety improvement. Okay, thanks. That's what I had.
Thanks, Harold. Bill, go ahead.
Thanks, Ann. Mike or Tom, leave that picture up. I wanted to talk about that. I'm a driver who makes that left turn out of those two left turn lanes northbound on Whitney Way and to go west on Odana. When I'm making that decision as I approach that intersection, you have the choice of getting either into the left lane or the right lane to make that left turn. What you don't know is if the driver ahead of you is going to be making a right turn, go through straight down Odana, or going to be making a left turn. If you guess right at which lane you get in, you're a winner, and those first 500 feet worked well. But it is, just as you said, it is a real interesting configuration, and we need the double lefts for capacity to get the traffic off of Whitney Way, because you can't back up traffic back to the Beltline. But it is just, I bet your camera shows some really weird turning movements at that location. I mean, it is just a real different issues with different drivers or types of drivers, aggressive drivers, drivers who are extremely cautious, who then there's congestion all the way back into the intersection, and so forth. So it is a very challenging 500 feet there. That I will say also that the right turn into the shopping center is a challenge, because there's a pretty steep grade right there at the intersection. So traffic really has to slow down and almost have to come to a complete stop if there's somebody trying to get out of that intersection. And to make a left turn. And I don't know if it's at all possible to force to make that a right only from the exit from the shopping center? Is that at all possible?
We could look into that. Again, like I mentioned, it's kind of didn't want to go to that extreme right away because we don't really have a real bad crash problem with the turns out of the shopping center. And I know that's where most people want to go to turn left to get out back to Odana.
Yeah, but I think if they would go out their other exit that exits directly onto Whitney Way, that is actually, I think, a safer maneuver for them. And I think if people realize that if they only do that, especially at rush hour, knowing that making that left turn out of that shopping center is a real challenge that time of day. So they have to be super aggressive. But I think maybe just right only would maybe help that a little bit. And then by that, then I think that might be free up more, get rid of some of that traffic to go out their other exit and make it easier for the two lanes that have to merge down to one sooner, that not sooner, but can get through that. If you say, I mean, it's just, I'm surprised there hasn't been more crashes there. I really am, because at least fender benders, because you really have to be on your toes you do not know if people are going to turn left or right or go straight and in that 500 feet. So it's a real challenge. So I appreciate it. And I think what you're proposing is certainly, I would definitely in favor of what you're trying, to make that an improvement. So my other comment is the speed limit on Raymond. And I know Alder McKinney is not on the line, but if she was, she would comment on Raymond Road. I appreciate changing the speed limit from 35 to 30 is good, but it's not really going to cause anybody really to slow down, just having the sign. So I know they get a lot of requests for the test officers to go on Raymond and whether the speed limit is 30 or 35, there's still going to be a lot of people that are driving 45 on that street. So or higher. And that's a challenging place from Whitney Way back toward the Verona Road. So thanks.
Thanks, Bill. Other comments for Tom? Got a lot of great projects for, in my opinion, a pretty reasonable amount of money when we're looking at 27 projects. So looks like you're stretching the budget in the right way to get a lot of things done. Anybody have any other comments or questions? Because we will need a motion to approve the requested Safe Streets Madison projects. Phil?
I'll make a motion for approval of the projects proposed for the next round of funding.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the requested projects for Safe Streets Madison. Is there a second, Denise?
Yep, I'll second.
Okay, did you wish to speak to your motion, Bill?
Sure. I appreciate all the work you've done, Tom, on trying to stretch what dollars you do have available. And I think it's a good mix of trying as many of the different tools that you have in the toolbox to do with the improvements. And I think hopefully that I think you've done a good job of selection and prioritizing.
Thanks.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the request of Safe Streets Madison projects. We have discussion on the motion. Okay, I'm seeing no hands. I'm going to assume a unanimous consent vote unless anybody wishes to vote no, wishes to abstain, or wishes a roll call vote. So please raise your hand. Okay, seeing no hands, the motion is carried. Thanks so much, Tom.
Yep, thank you.
Yeah, I really love the fact that I can go out on the website and see everything that's been done so far and everything that's in progress. I think that's really, really great to have that history there. So thanks so much. Okay, item 9 is where we share crossover reports from TC members who are members of other transportation-related BCCs. So we have folks like Downtown Coordinating Committee, Joint Campus Area Committee, State Street Campus Garage, Sustainable Madison, the MPO, Board of Public Works, Plan Commission, Disability Rights Commission, etc. So lots of people are on, and we thank you all for your service. It's hard enough just to be on the Transportation Commission. So thanks to everybody for that, but also thanks to everybody who is also on other BCCs as well. Does anybody have anything to report or comment or update TC on tonight? Robbie.
Yeah, I was just taking a peek at the Joint Campus Committee agenda, and mostly they talk about buildings on campus, which may or may not impact transportation. But I noticed that they had an item on lighting the Southwest Path. Now, this is not the part that there was a big controversy many years ago about lighting it west of Breeze Terrace. This is the part that goes basically from Breeze parallel to campus to, I'm not sure what the extent is, but to the east to Park Street. So I don't know what is on the agenda except that they're proposing lighting it. So if anybody's interested in that, it's an in-person meeting at the Wharf Building, or you can send comments if you so desire.
Okay, thanks, Robbie. Yang, did you have a comment on that?
Yeah, thank you, Robbie, for catching that. Yeah, so we have been working with staff for that committee on that, and also working with actually economic development staff and also others on that. So yeah, so it's a project by traffic engineering. And as Robbie mentioned, it's not controversial. It's much needed. We were just able to find the funds to do that. So basically, like all the mission lighting in the campus area, which have a lot of users, will be lighted. And we also use the TIP funds to do that. So have a very small impact on our budget. So that's what's happening, and they just brought that to that committee to give them an update, since it impacts that area positively by quite a bit. So thank you.
Great, thanks, Yang. And thanks, Robbie, for that update. Harold, go ahead.
Yeah, one item at the last Board of Public Works is maybe of interest to the Commission. This is a reconstruction of Buffalo Trail, Barron Court, and Green Lake Pass, which are pretty small residential streets near the Wisdot building, like near Hill Farms. This did not come to TC because was in compliance with Complete Green Streets. These are neighborhood yield streets. There was a question about what street width would be appropriate for these, where the public was presented with two options, one of which would maintain parking on both sides, one of which would have made for a narrower cross-section and removed parking on one side. And so there was some discussion around, okay, the concept of the neighborhood yield street is that they're so narrow that two cars can usually not pass each other, or at least not at full speed. However, these are streets with relatively low parking utilization. And so if you have rarely used street parking on both sides, you no longer really have that effect of the neighborhood yield street. even though technically the width, given the complete green streets guide for neighborhood yield streets, I mean, they comply. What was approved was 30 feet, and the minimum for neighborhood yield street is 32. So I think that just raises some question about, and we've had some discussions about the concept of the neighborhood yield street here as well. And so I just wanted to bring that to the attention of the commission. Thank you.
Thanks, Harold. Anybody have any other updates for TC? Okay. Thanks, everybody. Next, we have announcements from the chair. Just a reminder that Justin Sternberg, everybody's aware that Justin will be leaving his position as Metro Transit General Manager on May 30th. And we do plan to have an honoring resolution to recognize Justin for all of his contributions, hopefully at the next meeting. And I just heard from Keith before he went on vacation that we need to have a TC appeal subcommittee meet as we had someone wish to appeal a taxi permit denial. This related to what Bill was talking about earlier about the police and how they are careful of monitoring taxi drivers. So I'll be emailing folks to see if I can round up a couple of people to serve on that as well. So that's all I had in terms of announcements. And then for future agenda items, in addition to the resolution honoring Justin, potentially paid parking for Wilson Street lot, we are hopefully going to be looking at the Midvale Boulevard Public Works project. And along with that, we would need to have a public hearing to remove the residential permit parking from certain stretches of Midvale Boulevard. This is something we've been talking about since, last year when we talked about Midvale Boulevard. There was a lot of public opinion, and so staff has been doing a really great job of going back and forth and making sure that everybody's needs are addressed. Let me just make sure we still have a quorum. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, we do. Okay, great. So that'll either come this next time or in the near future. The Metro Transit Route 75 stop and trip updates and the bus stops on the D2 route are likely going to come back at the next meeting. And then a report from the appeal subcommittee, if we are able to meet prior to May 14th, will come back as well. We have a number of other topics that people have suggested. We've had a lot of people coming and going, as you've noticed, in terms of folks retiring and some folks coming in stream. So, but we will continue to look at those in terms of when we can get them scheduled at TC. Does anybody have any other suggestions for items for a future meeting that you want me to add to the tracking?
I would like to have a review. I'm sorry, can I address the chair?
Sure.
I would like to have a review of the BRT progress in solving the gap issue, as well as the need to verbally call into the car when you need a ramp. I need an update on that as well.
So would that relate to an update on issues for people with disabilities, Lynn, do you think?
Yeah, I think everyone's at risk when the bus is large enough for a moped to go through in between the stop and the car. And I just don't see it getting any better. I see it getting worse. So I was wondering if we could just get some feedback on what they've done since the last time we talked.
Okay, we do have in our work plan a regular item where we have updates from Metro Transit on issues with people with disabilities to come to us twice a year. And so as a result, what I'll do, I don't think Mick's still on, so I'll connect with Mick to make sure that that particular issue is addressed the next time they bring an update to us. Does that work, Lynn? Because that's a regular item that comes, but we can make sure he adds that piece into his update report. Does that work?
Certainly. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Okay, any other items? Just making a note here. Bill, go ahead.
And I'd like to just briefly suggest or ask about the transition plan status. And we had a great presentation about the level of effort and where we stand with the transition plan. But I'm interested in knowing that we have things from different agencies. I'm most interested in the things from transportation and traffic engineering, of knowing that just a presentation on their plan for when they would be doing some of their things. What's their priority of what things they would like to get added? Because we know we have some things that are missing from the transition plan, and find out when they're going to be doing certain things. And Yang, maybe you could ask and address that at some future meeting. As far as what is your priority of which things you in there that belong to traffic engineering and transportation in the transition.
Okay. And my understanding, Bill, is that when that updated ADA transition plan gets proposed, it'll go to the council, so it should get referred to TC. But we also have in our work plan that the commission will also periodically review the status of compliance with the United States Access Board public right-of-way accessibility guidelines, and we haven't had that yet. So, Yang, maybe that's something that we can look at. So we could maybe kind of incorporate. We have that in our plan, Bill.
That would do it.
So
that would work.
Yeah. So yeah.
I don't want that effort to stay too dormant on the shelf. I'd like to keep it in front of us.
Yep. It's very important, and we appreciate your help on that item, which I know you've been very helpful with staff. So Yang, maybe we can talk about that at our next agenda meeting in terms of when we can schedule that.
That sounds good. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think it's ready yet, but we'll kind of get it ready.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
And the other thing is since we have a lot of new members that have come on, I think it might be worth trying to plan, now that the weather is getting nicer, to try to see if we could schedule some activity where we could see some of the different things, components of traffic and transportation firsthand. In other words, a field trip.
Some sort of a tour or field trip?
Yep. We've been to most of the facilities. We haven't been out to the new Hanson Road project bus, but I don't want to suggest what a priority or which one we should do first. But I think with all the new members, I think they might find it interesting. I did when we had a chance to visit firsthand out to the different facilities that the city has as far as where the work gets done.
Sure. One of the things that we did, gosh, it wasn't this year, it was the year before, we had an in-person get together. It was, I don't know, in December, I think it ended up being, so that people could have an opportunity to interact. So we could try and do something where we have some sort of a tour involved or field trip. I like the field trip term. Field trip involved, and have that opportunity to get together maybe sometime in the summer when the weather is nice. I will say that scheduling that so that everybody can come was a challenge. It was.
I understand. I appreciate that, and it's not a mandatory, but those that can make it and would like to get more, say, hands-on, an opportunity to see the real workings
Sure.
of transportation and traffic engineering.
Yeah. So we can talk about that in terms of what we might be able to do. And Yang and I, Yang sent an email out to the 2 new members of TC, and certainly extend this to Kaylee and Lynn, who are the most recent before that. That you're, we do a little bit of an introduction about the Transportation Commission, and you're always welcome to arrange for personal tours. If you want to go visit Metro Transit, you want to see a BRT stop, or you want to, tour parking garages, or Yang, see the shop that you have, or whatever people might be interested in seeing, we can certainly do that. It's just when we have quorums, we have to post notices, etc. But if we have 1 or 2 people who are interested in a tour, then we don't have that same restriction. But staff, Yang, I think staff is always willing to do that. But we can try, Bill. We can try and get something together. But Yang, did you have any other comments on that?
No, I think that's a great suggestion. So thank you, Bill. And the staff are always very willing to show our work to any of you who are interested. So yeah, thank you.
Okay, great. Anybody have any other suggestions? Okay, well, again, I truly appreciate the level of involvement and interaction and engagement from everybody on the Transportation Commission. So thanks again for a great meeting, and we need a motion to adjourn. Harold.
To adjourn.
And Robbie.
Second.
Okay, I'm going to assume a unanimous consent vote because nobody has ever yet voted against adjourning. So thanks, everybody.